David, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
Sure. Please stand. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Alternate Commissioner Bill De La Pena.
Present.
Commissioner Parks.
Present.
Commissioner Parvin.
Here.
Commissioner Rooney.
Here.
Commissioner Ross.
Here.
Commissioner Zaragoza.
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Richards.
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Waters.
Here.
Chair Freeman.
Here. Thank you. Item 4 is the agenda review. And we have a request for change in order on that item. It's item number 12. 2 members of the Port District are here, and this should be a less discussion on that particular issue. Does anyone have any concern?
Yeah, I would just respectfully ask to move item 12 forward. We have 2 of our executive team here and a very important meeting at 10:30, so if it would be the will of the commission, I appreciate that.
We'll take it before item 10.
Immediately after consent? Yeah. Before item 10.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you.
Is there a motion?
I move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Consent items? Any question on any of the items on the consent agenda?
I'll move approval.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We'll move on to the adjusted agenda.
Excuse me,
for-
Chair Freeman. Just want to make sure that you skipped, looks like you skipped over public comments. I just want to make sure that you offer the opportunity for anybody to speak on
Thank
public
you.
comments.
Are there any, is there anyone who wished to speak on an item which is not on the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on. Thank you. My apologies for that. So we will take item 12, which is Sphere of Influence Reviews for the Ventura Port District and the Oxnard Harbor District.
Are they loading it, Rochelle? It'll be just a minute as they load the presentation.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. This is agenda item number 12. It is a review of the spheres of influence for the Ventura Port District and the Oxnard Harbor District. I'll start off with a little bit about the Ventura Port District. It is an independent special district that owns and operates the Ventura Harbor. This district is unique that its enabling act does require any annexations to the city of Ventura are also automatically annexed into the city of Ventura. So for that reason, in 2007, the Commission accepted a municipal service review and recommended that the sphere of influence generally be coterminous with that of the city. And that's what the Commission did in 2007 as a result of that MSR. The Commission again reviewed the 2012, or in 2012, it again reviewed the sphere of influence and determined that the sphere of influence does reflect the future service area and boundaries of the district, so it made no changes to the sphere. As part of this review, we did consult with the general manager of the district, and he verified that the sphere of influence does still represent the future service areas of the district and does not recommend any changes to that sphere. The Oxnard Harbor District. It was formed in 1937, and it is, again, an independent special district that owns and operates the Port of Hueneme. The district boundary does include most of the city of Oxnard, I think all of the city of Oxnard, and all of the city of Port Hueneme, as well as some unincorporated areas, El Rio to the north here, Nyland Acres, and then the beach communities here between the ocean and the two cities. So in 2007, the Commission approved a municipal service review and determined that no changes to the sphere were warranted at that time. In 2007, the Commission did review the sphere, and it was determined that because annexations into the city of Oxnard usually also include annexations into the port or the harbor district, the Commission amended the sphere of influence to better align it with the sphere of influence for the city of Oxnard. So for future annexations into Oxnard and the district, that just takes one step out of that process and makes it a little bit more streamlined. I did meet with the port director and staff a couple of weeks ago to go over the sphere of influence and determine if any changes were warranted. They agreed that no changes to the sphere were warranted, as it does reflect the future service area, so to speak. Their service area is very large, but for LAFCo purposes, the service area is the city of Oxnard and Port Hueneme. So with that, we recommend that the Commission review the two spheres of influence and determine no updates are necessary. And that concludes my presentation.
Are there any discussions on this item? Do I have a motion?
I'll move the recommended actions.
Second? Do I have a
I'll
second?
second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll move back to item 10, which is LAFCO item 17-08, Ventura County Fire Protection District Annexation, City of Santa Paula.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. And I'll be presenting a lot of information. It is in your staff report, but if you have any questions, please feel free to interrupt me and ask. Okay, we back up here. Okay, so this is agenda item number 10. It is LAFCO 1708, Ventura County Fire Protection District Annexation, Santa Paula. Now, the proposal is the annexation of the entirety of the territory within the city of Santa Paula to the Ventura County Fire Protection District to allow for the district to take over fire protection services from the city. If this annexation is successful, the city will no longer be providing those services. So the proposal area, as I said, is the entire city of about 3,550 acres. This map here depicts the boundaries and the sphere of influence for the Fire Protection District, which is in yellow. The sphere of influence is in red, outlined here. It includes the entirety of the county. The district includes most areas within the county with the exception of the city of Fillmore, Santa Paula, Ventura, and Oxnard. Again, here's the proposal area, city of Santa Paula, and it currently is within the sphere of influence of the district. Now, this resolution comes to LAFCO. It is from both parties. It is a joint application. Both the city and the district adopted resolutions of application earlier this year. Both parties also entered into a property tax exchange agreement earlier this year, and I'll touch on that briefly later in my presentation. So this is the proposal area, the city of Santa Paula in green. As you can see, it's entirely surrounded by the Ventura County Fire Protection District. And I want to talk a little bit about the services that the city's fire department does provide currently. So the city does fund a fire department. The services that they provide, generally speaking, are first responder and emergency fire suppression services. They offer fire suppression programs, code enforcement, and I assume that means fire code enforcement, and then fire inspections. Their annual budget for this fiscal year was a little over $3 million, and over the past 5 years, the average budget has been about $2.9 million. The fire department consists of 20 personnel. We have a chief, an assistant chief, 6 captains, 6 engineers, and 6 firefighters. They operate 2 fire stations, one located, Station 81, still getting used to this pointer, Station 81, which is downtown, and then Station 82, which is located to the west of downtown. These stations are staffed by 1 captain, 1 engineer, and 1 firefighter on 24-hour shifts. Now, I didn't put up here response times of the fire department, but I do want to just point out that they are very good response times. Over the past 3 years, the average response time for the department from 911 pickup to unit arrival on scene was about 5 minutes and 46 seconds. And it was about 4 minutes and 42 seconds from dispatch to actual arrival on scene. Now, Ventura County Fire Protection District. I want to talk a little bit about their services and staffing. Now, these are all the services that the district provides, and these are all of the services that will be made available to the city once it becomes part of the district, if it becomes part of the district. Currently, these services are offered to the city, but it is charged for these services because they are not part of the district. It would be basically providing services outside the district. So these services include first responder and emergency fire suppression, hazardous materials, paramedics, helicopter aerial firefighting, heavy urban search and rescue, ladder trucks, swift water rescue, wildland fire engines and enhanced wildland fire response, heavy rescue vehicles with specialized equipment, fire investigations, and enhanced incident management. So you'll see a comparison between the two, the department and the district, that the district just has the capacity to offer more services and a higher level of services. The district consists currently of 670 personnel, chief, deputy chief, assistant, battalion, and division chiefs, 110 captains, 96 firefighters, fire engineers, 154 firefighters, 49 paramedics, 27 control workers, and a number of other staff. So as part of the LAFCo application, the Fire Protection District did prepare a rather comprehensive plan for services that is attached to your staff report. And just briefly, I'm going to summarize the high points of that plan. So the plan would be for the district to take over control and operation of both fire stations. They're going to take over ownership of one, and I believe they're going to lease one temporarily. Now, they need to make immediate improvements to these stations just to bring them up to a level that they can use. And this would include the installation of advanced computer networks and other technologies, cardiac monitors, new breathing apparatus, as well as new personal protective equipment for the personnel. And that's, again, just to make them temporarily usable. Because the plan does include the construction of 2 new fire stations. Fire Station 81, the one downtown, that fire station is about 80 years old. It does not meet current standards. So they do plan to, my understanding is to raise that structure and build an entirely new station downtown. The station located on the west side of town, they will be using that temporarily, and they will be looking for another site, another location, in a strategic location to construct a new fire station there. The district will staff each of these stations with 1 captain, 1 engineer, and 1 firefighter, basically what the city does now. Response times. These 2 maps are attached to your staff report, but I wanted to just correct some misinterpretation of what the staff report says. The Fire Protection District has a goal to respond to all calls within a suburban environment, which includes the city here, within 8.5 minutes, 90% of the time. That's just a goal. That doesn't mean that actual response times are going to be 8.5 minutes. And as shown here, I did ask the district to provide some verification about what their response times are. And this map on the left here shows response times from Station 81. The tan area here, that's a response time within 5 minutes. So from Station 81, they can respond to any call pretty much in the entire city within 5 minutes. And then on the right here is the response times from Station 82. Again, the tan is 5 minutes. And so that also includes the majority of the city. So between the 2 fire stations, response times are expected to be under 5 minutes. Now, this is a comparison of the department with the Fire Protection District and their response to a structure fire call. And this just shows the different levels of service that can be provided. So we'll start off with the city's fire department. In the event of a call for a structure fire, the city will send out 3 fire engines with 9 staff, and then 2 personnel, 2 fire chiefs will also respond in their own vehicles, not a piece of fire equipment. Now, one of the fire engines is going to be coming from a mutual aid partner. That typically means the fire protection district. And one of the chief officers is also going to come from the fire protection district. So the initial call involves 3 pieces of firefighting equipment and 11 staff. Now, if upon arrival they notice that there is an actual structure fire, they will request additional resources. And that includes 1 truck company with 4 personnel, 1 light and air unit with 3 personnel. So an additional 2 pieces of equipment and 7 personnel. So the total response, 5 pieces of equipment and 18 personnel. Now you compare that with the response from the fire protection district. So in the event of a structure fire call, the district responds with 4 pieces of equipment, 3 fire engines and a truck support company, and a total of 16 staff if paramedics are in the area. If they're not in the area for the first call, they'll respond if there is actual structure on fire. Now, if there is an actual structure on fire, additional resources will be called, 2 more fire engines, another truck support company, a light and air unit, and an ambulance, and an additional 19 personnel. So for the response for a structure fire is 9 pieces of firefighting equipment and 35 personnel, roughly twice that of the cities. So cost and revenue. According to the Fire Protection District, their costs to take over fire protection services from the city include the annual operations of the 2 fire stations, the fire station upgrades that are necessary to temporarily use the existing fire stations, and then the construction of 2 new fire stations. Now, the revenue to cover these costs is going to come from that property tax exchange agreement that the city and the district entered into. And under that agreement, it provides that 16.5% of the total city property tax generated within the city is to be transferred to the fire protection district, allocated from the city to the district. This equates to about 79% of the share of total property taxes that would otherwise be allocated to the city. So 79% of the city's share of property taxes would be reallocated over to the district. And this does include property tax revenue. It also includes, I cannot get this to work, future revenue once redevelopment agency obligations are paid off, and they're estimated to be paid off in about 2024. And then they also are estimating property tax that will be generated from future development, primarily the East Area 1 development project, which is 1,500 houses that are nearing construction on the east side of town. And then there will also be a one-time transfer of funds from the East Area 1 developer who had put money aside to go toward fire protection services for that specific plan. So the total costs, these are estimated over 10 years, and this comes from the Fire Protection District. They estimate that the annual operating costs will be about $3 million for those 2 fire stations for a total of $30 million. The immediate upgrades necessary for the current fire stations are roughly $200,000. And then the construction of 2 new stations would be about $16 million for a total in 10 years of about $46.2 million. Now, this does not include the need. Apparently, there's going to be a need for the purchase of some new fire engines, and that's going to be, I think they're about $600,000 each. So that's probably another cost that should be added on here, which I didn't. The estimated revenue from the city and from the property taxes will average about $3.3 million a year for a total of 33.8 or thereabouts. The RDA revenue, which would begin in 2024, would give about 1.5 million. Future development, 5.2 million. And then the one-time transfer of funds from the East Area 1 developer would be about 4 million. So the revenue over 10 years is about 44.5 million. So there is a shortfall after 10 years. Now, because the property tax is still going to be going toward the district from there on out, it'll take about another 2 to 3 years for that shortfall to be made up. So about the 13th year, the fire district is essentially going to break even. And from that point on, revenue will exceed costs. So there is a funding mechanism in the long term. The fire district and the city are negotiating a memorandum of agreement that hasn't been yet finalized. They need to figure out some of the outstanding issues regarding the plan for services, and these include the employment of the current city fire personnel by the Fire Protection District and retirement compensation, the purchase and or lease terms of the 2 fire stations, the transfer of city funds following annexation but prior to the transfer of taxes, and amendments to the East Area 1 specific plan to transfer the funds. So both the city and the Fire Protection District have asked that the commission, if it approves the annexation, include a condition of approval that says the annexation will not be recorded until both parties come to an agreement on these items. If there's no agreement, there's no memorandum of agreement, and the annexation doesn't go through. So this will give both the city and the district the ability to essentially second guess themselves if they can't come to terms under this memorandum of agreement. And I also do want to point out that the memorandum of agreement will be subject to city council consideration as well as the board of directors for the Fire Protection District.
Kai, I have a question.
Yes.
As far as the MOU, how long has the Fire Protection District and the Fire Protection District and the city been working on the MOA?
It's been months. My
Months.
understanding is they're coming close to an agreement, but after approval, if the commission approves it, they will have another year up to the expiration of that approval to come to an agreement.
Thank you.
Madam Chair. Sorry, I was going to wait till he was done. Madam Chair.
Yes.
Thank you. My question is along the same lines. So if this commission approves the item today and we have that condition, so what's going to happen during that time period as they're working on the memorandum of agreement? You said there's 1 year. What happens if after that 1 year they have not come to an agreement?
They can either let the commission's approval lapse after a year, or before that 1 year time, either party can come in and request a time extension of that approval to allow them more time to work out the details.
And does that fall within our handbook guidelines that we have a situation like this? Is there a policy that surrounds this?
The 1 year time frame is in LAFCo law.
LAFCo law?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
For this particular kind of annexation,
I'm sorry?
for this particular type of annexation, it's in LAFCO law.
It's a 1 year time frame for all commission determinations.
Okay. I just wanted to
Reorganizations or
clarify that.
annexations,
Okay.
yes.
And if we did approve this with the condition, then it would not come back to us again.
That's correct. Yeah, they would submit the executed agreement to me, and then, assuming they've met all the other conditions, then we can record the annexation.
I guess a question along those lines, and maybe we can figure this out later in the meeting, is there anything in that memorandum that might cause us to be concerned about moving forward with the annexation? I think that's one thing that comes to my mind. If there's anything in there that they do agree upon that then makes this commission want to think twice about it, from your perspective, is there anything that you could imagine that might cause that?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, the memorandum of agreement pertains to the plan for services. And so both parties are in agreement and accept whatever that plan is, level of service, cost, et cetera. So, I mean, I don't know all of the specifics, but based on what I know, it does not cause any concern for staff.
Madam Chair, along those lines, I mean, I would just like to make sure that any concern that we may have fits within our purview and our role as LAFCo, not to reach outside some other condition that may be in the memorandum of agreement. So whatever it may be that impacts LAFCO, that has a LAFCO determination, that be considered,
Well,
not something further.
I'd like to follow up on that, just to say that you can't look at it from one perspective. You have to look at it from a full district perspective, right? Every city, the county, all of us are part of that district. So any MOU would have a direct connection to the entire district. Does that make sense?
I have a question here.
Yeah, I'm just going to follow up on that. My comment goes to LAFCo's role and responsibility, looking at our role, not something else that may not be outside of our jurisdiction.
Claudia?
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, we're probably just jumping ahead of ourselves a little bit with, well, maybe this particular question. How many extensions are granted after expiration of a year under LAFCo? Does LAFCo have guidelines?
LAFCo has to act to extend it before the expiration is up, and that time limit is up to LAFCO to identify. And I don't know if there can be multiple time extensions, but there can be at least one for whatever time frame the commission determines.
And if it's only one-time extension, how long is that? Maybe council can answer that.
Actually, under state law, you could extend it as many times as your commission chooses to extend it, as long as the request comes in before the expiration of whatever the latest extension period was.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions of staff? For purposes of this hearing, the fire district has requested. Oh, you're not.
I just got a couple of more
Sorry.
slides. I'd be happy to sit down if you'd like. Okay. Comments. Excuse me. We did receive several comments, most of which are attached to your staff report. Others we provided to you under separate cover. I want to just touch on the comments from the city of Ventura. And they do have concerns regarding the proposal because it will affect the city fire department. And this is because, excuse me, part of this plan to provide services to the city of Santa Paula includes the closure of an existing fire protection district station that's located just almost equidistant between the cities of Ventura and Santa Paula. So that would be closed as part of this. Now, all of the fire providers, fire departments and the fire protection district have agreements that the closest available unit to an incident will respond. Whether it's in the city, whether it's in the county, they will respond. So the closure of this fire station will mean that the city's fire department located on the east side of their city is likely going to be the closest fire station to incidences that were previously covered by that county fire station. So it will likely increase the number of calls to the city's fire station. So I did ask for the county fire protection district to evaluate what that means, what that impact is going to be to the city. And this was at the request of the city. And they determined that over an average of 3 years, this would likely result in an increase of 1 call per 9 days. That's an average to that city fire department. Now, the fire protection district doesn't see this as a significant impact. However, the city of Ventura still does have concerns over it, and conversations between the city and the district are ongoing. I understand that they met just a week ago to talk about these issues, but both representatives from the city and, of course, the fire district are here to answer any questions that you might have about that. And my recommendation is that the commission determine this action to be exempt from CEQA, and you approve the proposal. And if you have any further questions, I'd be happy to answer them. That concludes my presentation.
Any further questions?
I have a couple questions. You said that there were letters of opposition, and we received one this morning that had to do with the LAFCo law and in our handbook, that there should be no impact regarding environmental justice based upon race, culture, or income. So of the opposition letters that you've received, have you identified all of the issues and researched those and how they relate to the LAFCo law?
That's in the staff report. I didn't see that letter about the environmental justice.
It was just handed out.
Okay. But again, if you turn to the staff report, and I forget what page it is, that's one of the factors that the commission must consider. So we did address that, and we determined that we did not identify any issues of environmental justice. And I don't know what the basis of that letter is, why it may be considered environmental justice, but we didn't see that as an issue. It'd be on page 27 at the top there, environmental justice.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
The concerns that Ventura has on their fire station, didn't at one time the city closed the East Ventura fire station?
It wasn't that station, it was another station located on the east end. And that became an issue for an annexation that the city sought several years ago. And one of the conditions, I believe, was that the city accept a grant from the federal government to reopen that station because they were not able to provide fire protection adequately to that annexation. And I may be remembering it wrong, this is several years ago. But that station has since been opened and it has been funded to stay open.
So how heavily does East Ventura rely on that station that they're concerned about and mutual aid? Is it quite often, or?
I don't know how much the city relies on that station. To respond to city calls, that would probably be a question for the fire district. Right.
Okay, well, maybe when that time comes up, they can answer that question.
Yeah, I think they're well represented here.
Okay.
Are there any other? Yes, Commissioner Richardson.
Yes, Kai, we'd received a letter from the city of Moore Park, and I was just wondering if you have any comments with regards to their suggestions.
Well, one of the suggestions is they talk about the funding for the construction of the 2 fire stations hasn't been identified, and that was evaluated in the staff report. It's $16 million. The $4 million from the East Area 1 developer makes it to $12 million. That was factored in that overall cost that the district would incur, and that would be covered by the 13th year. So that issue is resolved. The idea or the request that the commission consider the per capita cost of fire protection to each of these cities, I don't know that that's relevant information to what's here before the commission today, because those property owners whose taxes are being allocated to the district have to pay that same percentage whether this gets annexed to the city of Santa Paula or not. So I don't see how that, pertains here. It might be an issue that can be addressed outside of LAFCo, but I didn't see it being relevant here.
Thank you.
How would that be addressed? How would that be addressed?
Well, it depends on what the goal is. If the goal is to reduce the percentage of property taxes that go to the district from any of the member cities, it would take a renegotiation of their tax exchange agreements between the district and the city. And that really is outside the scope of LAFCo.
Okay.
Are there any other questions of staff? Okay. Now, for purposes of this hearing, the fire district has requested that they have 1 speaker, and they will be doing a PowerPoint, and we will limit the comments to 3 minutes of all the other speakers. So my first speaker is Gabriel Zamora from the Ventura County Fire District.
Just a correction. Gabriel Zamora is in opposition to the annexation, and he will be making a presentation to the commission in lieu of having several other members of the public speak against the proposal. But Mark Lorenzen, Chief Lorenzen with the Fire District, is here, and he can answer any questions that you might have.
My mistake. I thought he was representing the Fire District.
Oh, yeah. He's representing some of the opposition.
Okay, we'll proceed.
Okay.
Are you going to have a time limit on this
Yes, I would like to
presentation?
limit it, since it's not, it was my understanding it was, you represent the fire district, so I was going to allow for extra time, but since you're a citizen representing citizens, 3 minutes, please.
Unless other people want to allocate their time to him.
Beg your
I mean,
pardon.
if others that are here want to allocate the time to him for his presentation. I mean, I don't know.
If I may, the request was for, after hearing from the fire district, who is the applicant, then the public hearing would be open. The opposition to the annexation have requested that in lieu of having several of them speak in opposition, they be allowed to make a 10-minute PowerPoint presentation. And that would happen after we hear from the fire district, the commission hears.
It would be my recommendation that we hear from the fire district and the city initially. So So with that, I will call Martin Hernandez, City of Santa Paula. Three.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners, staff, and I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak before you this morning. I wasn't expecting to go first, but I welcome that opportunity and welcome the opportunity to share some comments with you this morning. I just want to say that, I've had a lot of experience over my years working with elected officials and with understanding the process of land use and this commission's role, as well as public financing and budgeting. And I'll tell you, this process has put all of that to the test. The city has not moved forward, and I will say the majority of our council has voted in favor of this after a long feasibility process. And that started back in July of 2016 when we started down this road to see if this would work for our city. And 8 public hearings later, and here we are. This is an important step before your commission to allow us as public servants for the city of Santa Paula and elected officials for the city of Santa Paula, as I'm one of the council members for those of you who may not know me, to move forward for this very important step in protecting our public safety of not just the residents of Santa Paula, but also our employees, our firefighters. I would be remiss if I didn't take an opportunity to thank the LAFCo staff for a very comprehensive report, very well done, and a great presentation, Kai, as well as all those who had a finger in helping us get to this point, which includes not only our fire department in Santa Paula, but our administration of Santa Paula, as well as Chief Lorenzen and his fine staff at the Fire Protection District. This is really, I've heard the term used as good government working together for the betterment of the public. I would go a step further. This is not just good government, this is smart government. When you talk about the economies of scale and the enhanced services, and I've heard it said that, for Santa Paula, that it's an improved service. I beg to argue. We have one of the best firefighting forces in the county in Santa Paula, and I'm very proud of them. My only regret is to end a long time history, but Chief Lorenzen himself has stated that he tends to memorialize that at the new fire station, which we appreciate, Chief, because they have had a long, wonderful history of serving the residents of Santa Paula. I will tell you, though, that one of the things that, I'll make this short, one of the things that I've learned that is an elected official's probably priority in serving their constituents is maintaining that public service. That has to be first and foremost. If your public isn't safe, everything else doesn't matter. And I've heard that from my community time and time again. This has a domino effect, not only enhancing our fire services, but also into our police services and so forth. So we do have a long-term vision. This is part of that vision. With an affirmative vote from your commission, you will help us to see that reality and protect the public safety of our residents in Santa Paula. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Councilmember Ginger Girardi.
Good morning, and thank you for allowing us to speak today. I would like to make it clear to all of you that this issue is not about finance. It is about public safety of the residents of Santa Paula. Right now, we have a wonderful fire department. Unfortunately, they are ill-equipped. They do not have appropriate breathing equipment. They do not have appropriate fire engines. We had our best fire engine destroyed protecting the county in the Santa Clara wastewater plant. We're using a borrowed or loaned, discarded fire engine from another company. This is about providing and watching out for the health, safety, and welfare of the residents of Santa Paula and seeing that they have the same level of fire protection services that each of you have in your communities, something we cannot afford to do in our city at this time. So it is not only about protecting our residents, it's about protecting our firefighters. They are out there working themselves to the bone with improper equipment. It's unfortunate that most of us weren't aware of this situation until we started really looking into what was going on within our community. So it's in our best interest to see that this goes forward so that our residents are protected and they are treated the same way your families are treated, with their property having the same level of protection. But it's also in your best interest. And the reason I say that is because fire does not know a boundary. All you got to do is look at Napa County. It can go anywhere it feels like going. And as far as I'm concerned, every resident of this county is at risk, depending on what the lowest common denominator is. If we can't protect our community and the fire gets outside of our community, you're all at risk. It can go easily over the hill to Moore Park, Fillmore, to Ventura if we have some massive fire. It's in the best interest of this county to have the best fire protection services for our residents. This allows us to do that. Please do not be dissuaded by people that are going to come up and talk to you about finance. The city can deal with this issue. It is something that is within our budget, will allow us to deal with the other police protection that we need, and keep it in mind that this is about public protection and fire protection, and that really is the bottom line. Anyway, thank you very much for your listening today, and I'm sure you're going to get an earful from other people. But the council did vote 4-1 to go forward with this.
Thank you. Mark Watkins, City of Ventura.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. Mark Watkins, City Manager, City of Ventura. I appreciate the opportunity to speak this morning. Just want to clarify a couple of things. One, this is public safety. This is one of the core and primary services that every city provides. It's something that we obviously take very seriously. We want to fully understand the impacts. We want to understand the impact on Ventura. One of the things I will say that I concur with Moore Park letter is that this action doesn't just affect Santa Paula. This isn't just between Santa Paula and the county. There are others who are impacted, and we want to be involved. We are in the process of trying to understand those impacts, to know what it means to us, and make sure that we can address those. I will also say we're in a bit of a quandary with LAFCo right now. We're going through a process of municipal service level review, where every 5 years you look at all the services we provide. We're in the process of reviewing that and making comments. But the initial comments on that talk about our fire department and talk about the fact that we need to add firefighters, captains, and expand our fire service in order to serve our own growing population. And so we're working on that document. And then this document seems to imply that we can absorb additional calls and that there is no impact. And so we need to work our way through those and make sure that we know what the impacts are and that we're addressing them. It is public safety. We don't want to experiment. We want to make sure that we're addressing these and fully understand them before we go forward. Commissioner Zaragoza hit on one of those items. This report talks about the number of times that Ventura would have to respond into the unincorporated areas. And our fire chief is here. He can talk about some of those operational impacts. What it fails to look at, as the commissioner responded to, is that it goes both ways. We've got a station halfway between Santa Paula and Ventura, and that station comes into Ventura as we flex other directions, and we go into the county as needed. And so it's a wonderful operational agreement. I think it works to the benefit of all of us in the county to know that the incorporated boundaries are not there, that we respond inside and outside our cities, and we flex every which way. But so far we've only analyzed the one impact, which is how many times will we have to go out? We haven't looked and said, hey, wait a minute, we also had a resource that was helping us that's going away. And so that's just absent in this report altogether. Your report says a couple things. One, again, I would concur with Moore Park. There's an MOU that's in the works. That MOU could significantly impact funding depending upon purchasing and stations and all that. Our concern isn't the financing. Our concern is really operational. But it also says talks continue with Ventura. Our position is that those talks should all be concluded, and we should all know what we've got before deciding whether to go forward. And so we would respectfully concur also with Moore Park that we just defer this until we have all those answers. And finally, our city council would like the respect of having the opportunity to weigh in. We followed this. We understood there were some discussions going on, and then all of a sudden it got very fast and very real. And we haven't had the opportunity to present it to our city council, to tell them what the impacts are, to give them the opportunity to weigh in and ask their questions and make sure it works for everybody. And so our council would like that opportunity also.
Madam Chair, can I ask a question? Mark, how heavily do you rely on the mutual aid there on that station that you're concerned about?
I would say on a general basis, we rely on mutual aid very heavily. The county has resources that none of us have, and they make those resources available to all of us. And I think these operational agreements are a wonderful thing. We end up servicing, for example, off the avenue far north into the unincorporated area because we're the closest station. We've got a station that would service north along the coastline. But from the other end, we've got Oxnard rolling in and coming in, say, to Johnson Drive area. We've got the county coming in different areas.
So you rely on Santa Paula right now for that?
Santa Paula doesn't come in as often because we've got a county station right between us and Santa Paula currently. So that county station would come into Ventura. Santa Paula, I think. Really
So the county is the one that responds for the mutual aid?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And just one question. You're
Sure.
part of the ongoing discussion. The city is part of the discussion with the fire district, city of Santa Paula.
We haven't, not with Santa Paula. We've met with the fire district and with the county CEO.
Thank you. Any further questions?
I do. So you said that you have not had conversations with the city of Santa Paula regarding this issue?
Santa Paula City Manager Mike Rock and I have spoken briefly. I did give Mike a call just to tell him I would be here today as a professional courtesy. But no, we haven't had discussions between Santa Paula Fire, Ventura Fire, and the county as a whole.
So you've just talked city manager to city manager?
Yes.
Just one time?
Yes.
Okay. And then have you been aware of notices of, I think Santa Paula had 8 public hearings. Were you aware of those public hearings?
Well, no, we didn't go to all our public hearings. There was a community
No, I
meeting.
said, were you aware of them?
Tell you what I'll do. Our fire chief is here. He's going to address you also because he was the one that was attending public hearings. Also attended. There was a community meeting that was held at the station. So he was the one that was attending all those. So he can give you a more clear answer on which of those we participated in.
Commissioner Ross? Did you have a question?
So you're asking for more time, and during that time, you'd expect to be meeting with the city of Santa Paula. What would more time do for you guys, just to analyze?
I think the meetings would occur more between us and the county, since the Santa Paula Fire Department would be going away.
Right.
Our meetings would be between us and the county, and quite frankly, just internally to fully understand what the impacts are to us.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the impacts responding out. We really haven't looked at the impacts responding in. For us, the east side of town is where we're seeing development. And as we go through, and as any of you go through an environmental impact process, you look at that expansion, you look at the number of people, you determine how many calls you can anticipate from that, you look at your stations, and try to make sure you can absorb those as you go forward. And so we do that, but this is something that wasn't anticipated as we go through those processes.
Yeah.
And we don't think we've had time to fully digest it and know the impact.
I have one more question here.
Good morning. I have to ask the question,
Sure.
why is Ventura City not part of this district? Why do you have your own fire department?
Given the costs I've seen here, we'd love to join the district.
Okay,
I have a question.
thank you.
One more question.
So I know you're asking for us to give it more time, and I'm wondering, are you concerned that if we decided to move forward with the annexation today, that your discussions with the fire department, the county fire department, will go quiet, maybe? Or what is do you think it would incentivize them more to meet with you if we continue it? Just your thoughts. I'm not trying to stump you.
No, it's fine. Just, I think before this board makes a decision, it should have all the information available to it. That's what we would ask also. Our council, quite frankly, hasn't had the opportunity to weigh in. This has been just between the county and Santa Paula. And so as the neighbor to the west, who is impacted, we haven't been part of that process. And our council hasn't had the opportunity to weigh in, to consider what's there, and to be part of that. So I think similarly, the way others in the district would say, this isn't just about Santa Paula, this is about the district as a whole, and this is about adjacent cities and how they could be impacted. And so I'm not saying we're opposed to the annexation, and the county fire district provides outstanding service, but I do think that we need to fully understand it before we move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I will call David Ndiba.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. For the record, David Ndiba, City of Ventura Fire Chief. Thank you for your time again to speak this morning to all of you. A lot of what I think I had bullet pointed has already been asked and somewhat answered. Commissioner Zaragoza, to address, if I may, I'll just jump a little bit into what I think some of the questions are. From an operational standpoint, City Manager Watkins has, I think, expressed the city stance, so I'll speak a little bit more to to the data and the operational piece. Happy to answer questions. Just for an example, I think one of the things that my council and City Manager Watkins were concerned about was that two-way road and some of the quantifying the help that we receive. I've been in this system for about 24 years of this mutual aid, automatic aid, and I think we're a model system, statewide and nationwide, for how much we blur our borders to assist our citizens regardless of the logo that's on the door. As first responders, that's our charge, is to be a first responder and not to stop at a border. Because of that, and we've been a recipient of the benefit of that system, alone in 2016, Engine 26, which is the station that's closing, responded across into our city 91 times. They assisted us 91 times. Of those 91 times, they were the first arriving unit 74 times. And of those 91 times, 39 times, they were the only arriving first responder unit. So those were some of the numbers that we looked up, basically, that I shared with my city manager of what our concerns are for the reasons already stated by my city manager. Trying to look at what else hasn't already been said. We did attend some of the questions about timeline. We did attend, I did with my deputy chief, attend a meeting in February held at Station 26. That was the initial, I believe, and Chief Lorenzen can clarify this. We were invited, we attended, and it was the initial meeting with local residents around Station 26. And so we attended, we did not present, and it was basically an information gathering. And as the chief of the fire department, I'll concur with my city manager that basically we, staff-wise and time-wise, we knew this was ongoing. We knew this was a discussion. And for all intents and purposes, in the discussions I had with Chief Lorenzen, which we do communicate very often, this was not a sure movement forward. And so in June, I think we realized the vote was taken in Santa Paula and it moved forward. And by July, it was at the Board of Supervisors. And that's when I was sharing the information with my bosses, and some of the question came into play about the city's participation.
Madam Chair, the reason I asked, Chief, because given the data that we've been given by our CAI and so forth, and the information that we have, I'm just assuming that it'd probably be more beneficial to have, the fire district, servicing you as opposed to Santa Paula, if I have that correctly. But I'm assuming that with all the equipment that the county has and expertise, and I'm saying that Santa Paula doesn't have the expertise, but just the sheer force that the county has, I think it'd be beneficial for Ventura. That was why I was asking that question.
Right, and I do think that's a very obvious question. I think when you look at the map, if I may, I'm answering the question if that's okay. When you look at the map, it does beg to question the small white areas that are not covered by the district. And many, many years ago, we did look at that, and I can tell you that the numbers that fanned out looked nothing like this. And so the city council, it wasn't even an option at looking at the district taking over the city of Ventura. As City Manager Watkins spoke about the new numbers, again, the numbers have to be looked at, and I serve at the will of the city to make sure that they're provided the best service. I would work with my city council and my city manager to look into anything at this point if it makes sense. And the last time we did this, it clearly did not make sense.
Yeah, because I know in Oxnard, over in El Rio, we have the county and the city of Oxnard working together, and that's really a major plus, for El Rio, Satacoy, and North Oxnard. I'm just thinking out loud here.
Sure, and that's what we've done all along, I think, from like City Manager Watkins said, north of the city, south of the city, and now east of the city. We've done that for a long time, and it's actually improved vastly over the last decade or so with the agreements that we've come to that make sure between technology, GPS, and vehicle location, our citizens in this county-wide get the closest available qualified people, no matter where they are or where they live.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Marianne?
Chief, you mentioned that your first meeting was in February of 17 with residents of the Santa Paula community. Is that right?
We were invited by Chief Lorenzen and his executive staff. I was invited along with my deputy chief, Matt Brock, to attend and observe and listen. We didn't present, and we weren't any formal part of the presentation, but we were invited to attend because it was one of the factors of the annexation was that Station 26 was planned to close. And so I basically went educationally to learn And that was the first, real, like I said, as far as, because someone asked about the timeline. We did know about it. Chief Lorenzen offered up immediately the 45 calls, the 1 call every 9 days. And operationally, I looked at that, and that is how we operate, but it was an impact nonetheless. Taking it farther down the line, when we were looking at the annexation, or when I should say I and my staff were, the main issue was that it seemed to be a maybe type of event.
Okay.
It was not firm.
Okay, thank you. One of the council members mentioned that this started in 2016, and if you have ongoing conversations with the county fire chief, I mean, this topic didn't come up before February of 2017?
I honestly don't know that we discussed it before then, and it wasn't for any lack of communication. I think it was there's a lot of probably ideas out there, so I would say, but no, we didn't sit down formally to discuss the annexation of Santa Paula into the district, and one of my first introductions into it where I think we engaged it at all was in February.
So you had informal conversations between 2016 and that February 2017 meeting about the possibility?
Honestly, maybe. I can't think of one that we had, but it's a difficult question to answer. I honestly don't know, and Chief Lorenzen might even chime in if he comes up here, that we never sat down to have it as a singular discussion, formal or informal.
Okay, and then did you go to any of the public hearings that Santa Paula said they had about 8 public hearings? Were you there?
I did not personally attend any of the public hearings in Santa Paula outside of the meeting at Station 26.
Any of your team go?
None of my
No
management
representatives
staff.
from the City of Ventura Fire Department?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheryl Hanlon?
Good morning. I'm Cheryl Hamlin, resident of Santa Paula, and it's wonderful to be here. This is a fascinating discussion. I'm here to talk about the funding model for the county fire district. After studying these numbers for a while, and I have been, it has been clear to me that there's absolutely no relationship whatsoever between a slice of the TRA, the tax rate allocation pool, and the cost to deliver the service. Zero. Now, how do I know this? Well, Chief Lorenzen came to our city council and he said they have $90 million in reserve. Secondly, in the fiscal year 15-16 annual report for county fire, they show an $8.4 million profit. And tonight, or this morning, we heard the staff report, excellent report by the way, that there is a classic break-even model with the fire district. After 13 years, it will break even. So clearly, county fire is a profit center for the county. Now, I would like to add that I'm sure that as elected officials, you are all familiar with the fact that services provided by ad valorem property taxes are required to be serviced or costed on a cost basis. They're not to be profit centers. This is part of Proposition 218. So I suggest you look at this. So 3 things need to happen before this MOU goes forward. First, you need to redesign, recompute your model for charging for county fire. Number 2, you need to give a rebate to every city who is paid into the $80 million in reserves. And number 3, you need to put the Santa Paula MOU in abeyance until the new model is complete. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question. Is there a representative of the Ventura County Fire District that wished to speak? I don't have any cards from them.
Chief Lorenzen is here.
Good morning, Chair Freeman, members of the Commission. For the record, Mark Lorenzen, County Fire Chief. I'm happy to answer questions. I will address some of the issues up here as one of the joint applicants with the City of Santa Paula. I think I'll start by just addressing some of the challenges that we've had, for sure, especially as it relates to the City of Ventura. Could it have been done better as far as engaging the City Council in advance? Yes, there was a timing, a communications challenges on that. Now, the real challenge is we have a system that works here because we have blurred our jurisdictional boundaries and we respond in as the closest resource. And that does cause challenges when we move equipment, for sure, as the city of Ventura has concerns. Because of the way we interact with each other, those are legitimate. And the reality is I wouldn't be before you today. I wouldn't have filed as a joint applicant to LAFCo unless I truly believed that we were making the system better and going to improve the level of service, for the community of Santa Paula for sure, and then just generally for the communities in Ventura County. The reality is that, as was referenced by the Ventura City staff, yes, Engine 26 responded in 91 times into the city of into the city of Ventura. They will still be responding in, though they'll be a little bit further away. That mutual aid system doesn't go away. And it's interesting, the ebb and flow of how it works. And are there some negative impacts associated with what we're proposing? Yes, but the real thing is that it's one of those greater good kind of questions. Overall, it improves the system. Overall, it provides sustainability, at least to my belief, in the city of Santa Paula. It allows us to provide currently at least the level of protection they're currently getting, and likely in the future the ability to provide higher levels with paramedic services or whatever else we might deem appropriate if they are to become a member of the fire district. It's not very often that you see governmental entities actually choosing to become more lean and more efficient because it makes sense and because it's good government. That's really what we're proposing here. It's that regionalization of services here. There's lots of efficiencies that come from it, the economies of scale. Those are all vital and important. The fact that we have a reserve balance is actually, in my opinion, a good thing. It allows us to come in and create and build some infrastructure. The majority of our reserves are actually earmarked already for infrastructure improvements. The interesting thing is I know the city of Ventura has asked for you guys to delay the decision so there can be further discussions. And I'll give you my professional opinion as a fire chief. If I was in the position and one of our agencies, whether it be Oxnard or Ventura, was coming to me and asking me to evaluate 45 additional calls and the impacts it has, what I would do is I'd go back to our metrics, the 8.5 minutes that Kai referred to earlier, and look and see if I can still provide adequate service into the area and determine the impacts. And my response in all likelihood would be, of course, yes, we can cover you. That's the way the system works here. There is give and take in how we respond in the mutual aid system. I'm not sure where discussions would ultimately lead if there was a delay. We've had these discussions about what's going to be done. I don't have any proposed mitigation, and my professional opinion is that yes, that means Ventura City will be responding more, but my belief is that the service levels are still going to be adequate, and that we have the ability with our mutual aid and automatic aid system to still provide adequate coverage to everyone. So there's not a proposal to compensate or add additional equipment specifically related to this. Now, in the longer term, with the county providing protection in the city of Santa Paula, my guess is, as the population grows and as we evaluate the risk there, that there will likely be service level improvements somewhere down the road. And that will end up benefiting everybody, including the city of Ventura. And when that happens, we won't be going back to the city of Ventura and saying, look, you now have access to more resources here. It's the way the system flows. And it's really, we try and take that perspective of what is really good for the greater system as we propose these things. I know it's interesting, I know there's been a lot of opposition to this, and almost none of it, with the exception of Ventura City's comments, really relate to the level of service that we're proposing to provide. I don't think there's been a question that service will be at least as good as the current level of services, if not better. Most of the opposition has come really related to the financing. That was something that the tax exchange agreement that was agreed to by our Board of Supervisors and the Santa Paula City Council, and what I believe was an arm's length transaction. And it's very interesting because the opposition that we get is from some is that the city of Santa Paula is not paying enough, and from others that they're paying too much. And so probably usually what happens is that is a great indication that when everybody's equally dissatisfied, that we're probably at that sweet spot. So for us, really what I was looking for is, did 16.5% provide long-term sustainability for us? And it does. It's initially very, very thin, the margins, and we are certainly not in this for profit. We are trying to make sure we can sustain anybody that comes into the district in the long term, and that was probably the bare minimum amount that we could actually do it, and it was that growth and the RDA monies coming back that actually made it a viable option for us to be able to invest millions and millions of dollars into the city of Santa Paula in the longer term. And we looked at it from all perspectives, from providing better service to the public there, from being good stewards of taxpayer money in all respects. And we believe we have a good solution and a good partnership currently going forward with the city of Santa Paula. With that, I'm happy to answer questions.
Madam Chair? Well, I wanted, Chief, one of the important things that was mentioned by a couple of the council members is public safety, and above the financing of the annexation. Public safety, not only of the residents, but also public safety to protect the firefighters, not only Santa Paula firefighters, but also county firefighters. And I think to me, that's paramount right now. I'm sure that's your concern, because I've spoken to you many times, and you've spoken before our board. And again, public safety and of the residents paramount, and also of our firefighters. Number one. And the other question was, are we there to make a profit as a district? Somebody may answer. I know it was shared that we're there to make a profit, but I think we're there to provide a service for the community, not to make a profit. But can you share number one about safety and number
sure? Yes, and as I had stated earlier, I wouldn't be here before you today if I didn't believe we were actually enhancing public safety, and overall the safety of, yes, our firefighters, and truly, most importantly, the community of Santa Paula. I, in my heart, believe that this will actually make the services better in that whole area there. And like I said, make it stronger, more robust response, certainly give the city of Santa Paula more than they currently have when they get the full breadth of what the Ventura County Fire Protection brings. As Kai pointed out, the depth of our response is just significantly more than what a small city department can currently provide. As far as we for sure, when you look at our budget, there are times when we end up having unanticipated revenues, and we end up having excess monies that go into our reserve balances. We are certainly not in it for profit. We don't believe the public actually pays us or sends money our ways for us to save up these monies. And we have literally hundreds of millions of dollars in assets that the fire district has, and to be able to have a sinking fund that allows us to replace those without having to go forward with financing our debt, it actually gives us great leverage. And like I said, with the city of Santa Paula, allows us to come in immediately and make some significant infrastructure improvements. If we went through and evaluated our reserve balance, you would see that I would say probably more than 100% of it is already spoken for when you look at our long-term capital needs in our sinking fund.
And God forgive that we lose one or two fire trucks. What are you talking?
For sure. Well, certainly from Santa Paula's perspective, we, being a larger agency, one of these things that annexing with us does is it certainly relieves them of risk, the risks associated with large-scale incidents, with incidents that are cost prohibitive. For example, the Santa Clara wastewater incident that was spoken to earlier. It really transfers that risk over onto the fire districts.
Thank you.
I have one more question.
Yes, good morning, Chief.
Good morning.
If, hypothetically speaking, Santa Paula were to annex to your district, would that leave only two cities in the county with their own fire department, Oxnard and Ventura, or are there others?
Also Fillmore.
And Fillmore?
Yes.
Okay. And you spoke about the sweet spot. Would that be perhaps the time to look at renegotiating or recomputing the model that we have?
So, to be honest with you, I don't know what the mechanism for that is. I know Jeff Berg is in the audience, our auditor controller. I don't know if you can renegotiate the current tax allocation, the AB8 allocation. I don't know the mechanics of how that works, if a city can actually go out and renegotiate those items there. It's interesting. I mean, there is a pie, and we certainly have a cut of the pie that is different in each one of the cities and different in the unincorporated areas. I can't tell you how that number was derived. I wasn't there at the beginning when they had those items. So I don't know the mechanics of whether somebody could renegotiate.
Because, as you mentioned, that is the concern of some cities in Ventura, mine included. We happen to be the biggest contributor of sales tax, property taxes to the district, obviously because of property values. So, I just wanted to find out from you, but it makes more sense to have one fire district servicing all cities in Ventura County.
So I am certainly a proponent of regional fire services. There's lots of things that would need to happen in order for that to make sense, but is it possible that someday that could be the most efficient model? For sure.
Chief, thanks for coming and speaking on behalf of the fire district. Regarding the memorandum of agreement between the city of Santa Paula, how soon can you foresee that coming together within the next year?
So we have a draft agreement that's there. I would imagine within the next month we will actually have it formalized. I heard some concerns there about some of the things that might be contained in it that would affect your decision here today. I can say with relative certainty that the items in there don't affect services. They deal with personnel, how people come over and get paid, and seniority, and talk about some of our liabilities associated with pension obligations, with the PERS versus the transition to Visera, workers' comp liabilities, leases and transfer of equipment. Those the minutia that gets into something bigger like this. So I am hopeful that within the next month we have an agreement that's out there that we can at least. I don't believe we've even shared the draft agreement with the city of Santa Paula. There's probably going to be some discussion, some negotiating that go back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
But in short order, our goal is to get it done as quickly as possible.
And then if this commission did decide to delay the approval of this annexation, would that get in the way of this memorandum of understanding between the city and you?
No.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I'd like to ask, what was the Board of Supervisors' vote on this issue that you had recently? Unanimous, 5-0. Okay, great, thank you. Chief Lorenzen, you mentioned that definitely the city of Santa Paula benefits from this agreement and arrangement. I'm wondering, is that benefit to Santa Paula at a detriment to other cities in the county?
That's an interesting question, and I met with the majority of the city managers prior to this meeting because they had concerns. They wanted to sit down and chat about it. In my opinion, no, it's not to the detriment of the other cities. They all will, and that's the interesting thing as a fire district. They don't contract with us. They're actually just part of the district, and they get the services that we provide. So because this covers my incremental costs fully, the financial arrangement to this, there's no negative financial impact, to other cities that might be part of it. I know, and I won't name the cities, they were certainly concerned about us being able to enhance services within their cities if we were to enter into this agreement. And obviously with our financial means and our reserve balances and our annual revenues, my answer to them is that we always evaluate risk, and if we need to add resources there, we do. We have the ability to do that. So I guess that was a long answer, but yes, my answer is generally no. It's not going to impair the other 6 cities or the people in the unincorporated areas of the county.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, Chief. Appreciate it.
Good morning.
One of my questions is on the agenda report for the July 25th Board of Supervisors and your organization. They identified that the draft MOU would detail the items, and the items are the ones you just mentioned a minute ago. Mm-hmm. The personnel, future retirement compensation, purchaser lease terms, transfer city funds following the annexation and the redistribution. And the last one really is irrelevant, but, I represent cities on this commission, so I think cities are close to this item today. And I've heard from some of them. And my question is that during that meeting on July 25th, it was discussed that the city of Santa Paula and the County Board of Supervisors and your organization would have the MOU. The MOU would be prepared prior to the LAFCo annexation meeting. Do you recall that?
I don't remember what the exact wording was.
Okay, so when I saw this report, when it was delivered on Friday or Saturday, and it said, though the Ventura County Fireshed Protection Districts and city have not yet reached an agreement on all these issues, neither party wished to delay the LAFCo process. And I just wanted to know from your opinion why we need to rush when some cities feel it's important to see what the MOU says.
Well, it certainly hasn't felt like a rush. It's been a process, at least for me, that's been going on for over 2 years. And, I don't have a great answer. I certainly understand cities or other people's interest in looking at the MOU. I don't see how it impacts the decision that LAFCo is making, which is normally, these are all items that really don't deal with level of service. They are all financial and personnel related issues. So I can't comment beyond that. The correlation with the decision that your commission needs to make today and actually seeing the MOU, I can't comment except that I completely understand why people are interested in looking at it. I know that's not a great answer. It's a non-answer, but if I'm in conflict with what was decided by our Board of Supervisors, I wasn't aware of that.
And we've been going round and round, and maybe Kai or maybe our attorney can go ahead and share with us exactly what we're being asked to do today. I know we're talking about financing, we're talking about MOUs, we're talking about, can you go ahead and reiterate what our obligations are today? I think you had a couple of recommendations up in the...
Well, the evaluation of the commission really is the level of service that's currently provided, the level of service that's going to be provided upon annexation, and whether those services can be paid for. And based on the information I have, which is in the staff report, it is an enhanced level of service that can be paid for. As far as the financial impacts or levels of service impacts to other cities, nothing came before me to indicate that there would be an adverse impact to any of the other cities or elsewhere in the district.
So we're talking, can the Ventura County Fire Department provide the level of service? Is that, and also, and is there sufficient funding to take care of it?
Yeah, in a nutshell, yes.
And that's it. Mm-hmm. I just kind of want to reiterate that again for the commission. Thank you.
That ends the questions. Great. Thank you. I'll be available for more questions should they come up.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I'm Mary Ann Krause, and I'm a former mayor of Santa Paula and a mostly retired city planner. I've also been an analyst for the county and Oxnard and other communities. I've generally supported the idea of providing fire and rescue on a regional basis, and I definitely support paying firefighters a fair wage and making sure that they're properly equipped and trained. I've been opposed to this annexation because of the level of property tax transfer. I believe that it's too high. Let me explain why, and what I'd like to have you do is completely forget what you've been listening to and think of it from another perspective. If I had been negotiating this on behalf of Santa Paula, I would have asked for a completely different point of view. First of all, there are 3 stations in the Santa Paula area currently. There's a county station and 2 city stations. Now the decision is being made to only have 2 stations in that area. But that doesn't absolve the county of the responsibility for providing fire service in the unincorporated area, in the territory essentially from Wells Road on the west to Hall Road, halfway between Santa Paula and Fillmore, basically northern Santa Paula Canyon, all the way to the top of Grimes Grade. And so putting all of the responsibility for the two future stations, which both happen to be in the city of Santa Paula, on the taxpayers of Santa Paula seems totally inappropriate. Right now, the county is operating Station 26 with revenues that it has primarily from the unincorporated area. Those revenues, while perhaps not increasing because of Prop 13, there's still a requirement to provide those services. And so putting all of that on Santa Paula taxpayers seems absolutely inappropriate, and I think the whole model is flawed. If you look at the numbers in the LAFCo report, which shows how many $1 million are needed to cover two stations, well, the county fire district should be kicking in for one of those stations because it covers a huge area. And if that were the case, then the fire district would be getting a huge windfall on the backs of Santa Paula taxpayers. I would hope that if you do approve this annexation, that there's still time for the city to reconsider and reopen the negotiations, because the 14.6% is way in excess of what's needed to essentially operate one more station. Thank you.
Thanks, Marion. Mike Tracy?
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for this opportunity to speak before you, the Commission on this issue. I am Mike Tracy, Ventura City Council member, but I want to point out that I'm not here today representing the City Council. I'm not representing the mayor or speaking on behalf of the entire council. I'm here as an individual council member. Furthermore, I don't really have an opinion as to whether or not the City of Santa Paula enters into this agreement with the County Fire District. That clearly is a matter for the City of Santa Paula and the constituents of that City Council. The City of Ventura has been a partner with the Ventura County Fire Protection District for many years. We began providing services, fire services in the county area north of our city when the county fire station at Cañada Larga and Highway 33 was closed several years ago. I believe we were the first city with an independent fire department to contract with the fire district for dispatch services. The mutual aid and automatic aid agreements between our county's fire departments result in outstanding service to the county residents and our visitors, and the City of Ventura is fully committed to these mutually beneficial agreements. My concern in the matter before this commission centers on the closure of Ventura County Fire Station number 26, currently located less than 2 miles east of the Ventura city limit. Closure of this fire station is apparently integral to the annexation of the City of Santa Paula into the Fire Protection District. I have reviewed the written materials pertaining to this annexation, and I watched recently the video of the presentation of the Board of Supervisors. I think it was in August. I have talked to the Ventura Fire Chief, David Ndaya, and City Manager Mark Watkins, who have been in communications with the county exec and with the county fire chief. And it is clear to me that the impacts of the closure of Fire Station 26 have not yet been fully evaluated, nor has the Ventura City Council or our constituents been adequately involved in or informed of the analysis and subsequent decision to relocate this public safety resource on which we in the City of Ventura currently rely. The city's relationship with the fire district has always been a positive one. It's a valued relationship that works. However, in this instance, I believe that the interests of Ventura were overlooked. Certainly not by design or intent, but nevertheless, there has not been a full analysis of the impact this action will have on our ability in the City of Ventura to provide fire services to our constituents. I do understand that closing a fire station is not easy. When our city council had to close a fire station on the east end a few years ago due to fiscal constraints, we experienced response delays and heard from our constituents. There were consequences to closing that fire station. We were also reminded at that time of our obligations under our agreements with the County Fire Protection District. That was one of the reasons we felt the urgency to reopen that fire station. And it wasn't until we passed the tax measure last year that we were able to permanently fund that fire station. We did receive some money from the federal government to operate it for a couple of years, but with that tax measure, we went to our constituents and we said, we have a big need for fire services in our community. We asked them to give us some extra money through a tax increment, and now we're going to be telling them, by the way, we're agreeing to take over an area east of our city that is really in the county jurisdiction. In closing, if closing Fire 26 is indeed a requirement for the Fire Protection District to proceed with the annexation, then I believe it is important that the full impacts of its closing on service delivery in the city of Ventura be fully analyzed and evaluated. There needs to be adequate opportunity for the Ventura City Council, the Ventura Fire Department, and the larger Ventura community to fully participate in this process in the interests of transparency and good government.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Gabriel Zamora. Thank you for understanding the confusion.
Thank you.
If I may, Gabriel has a PowerPoint presentation that he'll be presenting in lieu of having several speakers speak. So if that can be loaded, please.
I was just wondering if the speakers who are passing their time to him can show their hands so we know that they're here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate that.
Thank you, Madam Chair and esteemed commissioners, for the opportunity to participate in this very important public process and to speak on this project. Before I get into this presentation, which was prepared before so much testimony that was given, I just want to I want to sum up and say that, I think it's my personal feeling and a lot of people here that there are a lot of false assumptions and false premises that have been built into this process. Taking more time to make this decision, I don't feel, is a delay when that's the appropriate step that needs to be taken. A number of questions that have been raised today just haven't been included in the recommendation to approve this project, and we feel that that's the important issue today, that these questions need to be raised or need to be addressed before moving forward. Thank you again for the opportunity. My name is Gabriel Zamora. I'm a Santa Paula resident of 7 years, and I'm here with concerned Santa Paula citizens to respectfully ask you to vote to deny the project and to help show you why you don't have the information that you need in order to approve it. I want to focus on three things. There's just bad information, or you don't have the information that you need to be able to make this decision. This process has been fraught with conflicts of interest, and there are significant legal consequences, not just for Santa Paula, which we're concerned about, but also for the county. The essential point is that this whole process begins with a premise that is not correct, that is, that Santa Paula has a critical unmet need for fire service and fire facilities. Santa Paula does have a lot of critical unmet needs, and I'll invite all of you to come to Santa Paula with me, and I can show you, we'll be happy to show you a lot of them. They include parks, they include public safety, they include code enforcement facilities, but they do not include the quality of our fire service. Our fire service has better facilities and is in better shape than any other city agency in Santa Paula. They're a beloved, dynamic part of our community, and they dramatically outperform Ventura County Fire District's response times. They arguably deliver more value for money per capita than any agency in the county, and they respond on the county's behalf to incidents that are outside their primary jurisdiction, including hazmat and wildlife catastrophe prevention. We're here to help give you all the facts about Santa Paula and this proposed annexation project. First, we'd like you to consider that this project is unusual and deserves extra scrutiny because Santa Paula is truly unique in that records still show that our city has the most poverty of any U.S. Census city in Ventura County. Santa Paula does not have any of the luxuries that come with just being average. In this room, high-level decisions can be made that pencil out on paper, but still have the ability to adversely impact a disproportionate number of our residents whose influence, economic power, and access to representation is compromised by circumstances beyond their control. No one in Santa Paula can afford to spend 80% of our property taxes for services that we don't need and with money that we haven't approved to spend. Santa Paula is a small rural community that has been thriving since 1873 without heavy urban rescue and helicopter fire suppression. These are services that we do not need. The immediate upgrades that are claimed that we need are upgrades to provide services that we don't need. Santa Paula Fire Department performs admirably every day. The real sideline data has shown, and this is in the city's approval numbers, has shown always that this proposal will increase costs for providing fire service in Santa Paula from day one. It's a cost increase that's unnecessary, again, to provide services that are unnecessary. In addition, I'd like to just point out that another issue that has not been included with this process, which is frankly a budget crisis in Santa Paula that has been reported, but has come after the fact of initiating this project, hasn't been taken into account in the financial structure of this project, and has been exacerbated by recent spending decisions by our city council to dramatically increase staff levels and payment and benefit levels. The fact that those levels are that those decisions are expected to create an $8 million shortfall in 10 years only exacerbates the additional costs for providing services that Santa Paula doesn't need. Again, Santa Paula, the fire department outperforms the Ventura County Fire District, while other essential municipal services are persistently ignored, underfunded, and compromised, including our own financial decisions that are made. We're not even taking the time as a city to address the financial integrity of our town, much less all of the code enforcement and public safety that we need to spend. We clearly don't have the money to increase spending on a fire service that is stellar. This is information, again, this highlights some of those cities, some of the services that remain underfunded, like public works, facilities, planning, and code enforcement. And to show you exactly what that means, I mean, this is Santa Paula on Veterans Day 2017. These are parks that are not repaired. These are roads that are falling down, not just in our hillsides, but on our central business district. These are homeless encampments that are threats to public safety. These are city hall public facilities that are falling apart. These are public parks, Veterans Memorial Parks, that are not safe because their equipment is not properly structured. These are landmarks and historic resources that have all been compromised over the last year because of lack of resources and attention. Fire department is not one of them. Costs that are ignored by this proposal include money that has previously been promised to our fire department, loss of revenue in the form of fees that the city actually collects and will no longer be able to collect, and costs that are actually being retained by the city, including pension liabilities. These are the estimates of the impact of the new raises and the new staff increases that the Santa Paula City Council agreed to earlier this year that have not been included in this proposition. It amounts to almost $30 million. Significant conflicts of interest. It's been mentioned already that this project will create a revenue stream for VCFPD, which is a potential violation of Proposition 218. This definitely is expected to create a $10 million surplus out of Santa Paula property taxes that do not have to be spent in Santa Paula. These are taxpayer monies that are being siphoned for benefits that the taxpayers will not receive. We've had fire union and fire department personnel directly involved in this decision-making process from the beginning, all of whom stand to benefit significantly from the approval of this project in the form of compensation and additional benefits. And then again, there has been comment that the Ventura County fire protection response times are a goal, not necessarily a fact. But that simply means that there is no promise that they will go up or down. All we know is that the average response time will go up. That right now, Santa Paula Fire Department is outperforming Ventura County Fire, and we do not have a reason to expect Ventura County Fire to perform better in the future. We've heard about legal concerns that other cities and other agencies have with this issue today, and we believe that it's a risk that the county needs to consider. Especially the fact that the rate that Santa Paula is going to pay is not based on the cost of service, and that the revenues will be created for the fire district that exceed the cost of serving Santa Paula Fire District. There's been overwhelming public criticism of this that has all been ignored but is widely reported. There have been over 1,000 signatures so far in Santa Paula, and five former city mayors and our current city mayor who have not agreed that this is a good idea. So I'm here to ask you to deny this project, but at least point out the fact that you don't have all of the information and the staff report doesn't have all of the information, and we would like, at a minimum, for the process to be continued so that we can provide additional information to staff, and so that the protest period can be extended so people can have the public can have a fair say. Thank you.
I do have a couple questions. Thank you, Mr. Zamora, for your presentation. Unfortunately, there's a lot of information on your slides. It was hard to digest in the limited amount of time that it was up on the screen.
Yes.
So forgive me if I make a few errors in my questions. One of the statements that you made was that you were going to lose the Limoneira contribution. And I think I remember as one of the speakers talked about that the developer was going to pay $4 million for the East Area 1 project. So is there something that I'm missing? Is it a different project, the $4 million from Limoneira?
There are two issues that and I'm sorry if I cut you off.
No.
Thank you. There are two concerns with that particular point. One is it's a loss of control. That money was dedicated not just for fire service but also for police service, and that will now, yes, it will be spent for fire services, but they'll be spent for fire services that we don't need.
Okay.
As part of this project.
So I guess my question is, where and how are you gathering your information for all of the statements that you've made here? And have you been participating in the public hearings that have been going on since 2016?
I've been able to participate in one public hearing. Our group has been participating throughout the process, and you saw their hands raised today. This has been a common effort, and as I've been trusted to speak for several people today. I would say yes. And as to where the information comes from, it's all information that is either reported in the public record or is included in the agendas for these different hearings and public and city council meetings. And there is a lot of information. That is why we think that, that's why we're asking at least for more time, so that we can help make sure that this information gets into the staff report and is properly digested as part of the project.
So in the, you talked about a budget shortfall because of the annexation. So have you worked together with the city and the city council and the city staff to talk about the budget and the shortfall that might be caused directly by the annexation?
Yes, and I'm glad that you asked that question, Commissioner, because we've asked the question several times, and we have offered, we've asked, frankly, our first question was was of the city. Where are the numbers that the city has been proposing? Where are those numbers coming from, and how can we evaluate those? And we are consistently referred back to the same reports that do not have footnotes, that do not cite sources. And those numbers have changed throughout the course of 8 public hearings. And so we're constantly having to recompute and recalculate, and we frankly do not know whether the numbers are going to stay the same. We expect, if the pattern continues, for those numbers to continue to change, and that's one of our primary concerns, is that we just don't have the information that we need.
And I think it's my last couple of questions. How many people, residents of Santa Paula, are affiliated members with your group?
Well, to answer that question, I've met with, there's a core group of several people. We have 2 of our members have been collecting signatures, and we've collected over 1,000 signatures to date of members of the public who support our position.
So the members of the Santa Paula Concerned Citizens is just several?
It's an ad hoc group of concerned citizens.
Less than 10?
No, more than 10. 10 or 20 people.
10 or 20
focused.
people,
Yeah.
and you've collected 1,000 signatures.
Yep.
That are in opposition to this. Well, I thought I saw like 12,000 on your presentation. Oh, 12,000 registered voters do not want it. You collected those signatures?
We haven't. No. But
How do you know that they don't want it?
It's been overwhelming. It's because of the overwhelming response that we have received. We're confident that the registered voters do not want this project.
So you don't have 12,000 signatures of people that say they don't want the annexation?
No, that's what we're preparing to collect those.
Okay, but you don't have those right now?
No, I have 1,000 signatures
1,000.
here.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, I think the presentation you made earlier was a good presentation. Maybe that presentation, as Commissioner Rooney said, should have been made to the City Council. Because we're really looking at it, and the level of service and can this annexation be funded is what I think we're looking at. And I think that presentation is an excellent presentation that probably should have been made to the City Council, and maybe you already have. The other concern that I have is you talk about too many conflicts of interest. And I think when I can't remember how many slides back, you talked about that LAFCo has been given conflicting information. What information is that?
Well, the information that we believe that's conflicting is the fact that you're being asked to approve a project. You've been recommended to approve a project that that has not been fully defined. So, and there's a conflict there. We don't think that the recommendation to approval is appropriate.
Because of the financing, because of all the other projects?
Because of the presumed need for additional services that are not appropriate for Santa Paula, because of the presumed condition of Santa Paula Fire Department's facilities, which are better than any other department in the city, and because of the fact that also because of the finances, because we can't afford it.
I think my understanding is that the 2 stations need a lot of repairs, a lot of work, and so forth, and
if they're going to provide enhanced services, but the service enhancements are assumed needs that Santa Paula has done really well without since 1873.
Just one last question. So the 2 Santa Paula stations are far superior than the county stations that we currently have in the county?
No, I wouldn't represent that. I would say that, and that's not what this presentation is meant to say. Not that they're superior to the county services. We're saying that the county services, it's a false comparison between the county services and Santa Paula Fire Department, and that the Santa Paula Fire Department are excellent for Santa Paula and have a lot of life left in them. And I would like to be very fair to our city council. They have not seen this presentation in this format. They have heard all of these concerns we feel over time. We're here today. We made this presentation concise because we voiced these concerns over time, and we made them so concise in interest of
the only reason I mentioned is because you mentioned that public works needs help, the parks need help, the streets need help, like all cities do. But
right.
So we're really basically we're talking here only about the fire department and the need to annex, not what the city needs in general, which I respect.
Yes, sir.
I think all cities do. But possibly maybe that presentation should be more appropriate for the city council.
Thank you.
And thank you for.
There's a question for staff.
Yes, I have a question that would probably be for council, which is, again, hypothetically speaking, this goes through, the annexation is approved, in a couple of years from now, Santa Paula finds itself in even more dire financial strait than it is currently. How will that impact this decision if bills cannot be paid anymore?
I'm not sure I follow your question.
Could there be a consequence to the fire district if Santa Paula couldn't pay its bills?
Well, the money that will be coming to the fire district will be through property tax
Correct.
payments.
Yes.
So it will not be filtered through the city of Santa Paula. It will come directly from the county auditor as the county auditor spreads out the property taxes. If the property taxes go down, it doesn't affect the obligation of the fire district to provide the services.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Richard Rudman?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, staff, I'm Richard Rudman. I've been a resident property owner and business operator in Santa Paula since 2009, and I am in support of annexation. Previous speaker's presentation was very interesting. I haven't seen it in that form before, but I have a feeling that the signatures they gathered were based on some of the facts in that presentation. A lot of the citations were to articles in the VC Star, which I have read those articles, and I believe that there are inaccuracies and biases expressed in those articles that if I had not read those articles and had been talked to about this by proponents who are gathering signatures, I might have signed it. Fortunately, I read the articles, and I've talked to the fire department and the city council, and I certainly think that there are errors there that may have misled some people. The liability and risk to the city that will be eliminated by this annexation is one of the reasons that other departments are being improved in the proposed budget. And I would defer to City Manager Rock and the fire service people to talk about these things. But I want to say that we should focus on annexation in terms of profit and loss, not in terms of profit and loss, most definitely not, but in terms of life safety and property risk and peace of mind. I don't want to live in a city where I have to worry about these things, and I think that the fire department, as good a job as it's done, is on its last legs. We're one disaster away from a fire department that is not functional. I refer you to the letters that I submitted that are part of your record that talk about old equipment, continued use of OSHA equipment or OSHA-sanctioned equipment that is run out, two principal fire engines that have a combined age of 47 years, and an underpaid service that leads to a lot of turnover and hidden costs. You never eliminate costs for vital government services when the core purpose is to preserve and protect lives and property. You can only shift those costs to other funding mechanisms or fail to pay for them. The opposition is asking us to put a price on life and safety. That's something I don't think we should do. I want first-class fire and emergency medical response for my city that meets accepted fire standards. Thank you.
Thank you. Jenny Crosswhite?
Good afternoon. I want to be clear that I'm here speaking as myself and not on behalf of the city, as I do serve in another role on the council, but I'm here speaking as myself, as some of what I say most likely will not represent the council majority opinion. Part of what I want to talk about this morning is I have tried very hard throughout this process to keep an open mind as to ultimately what I think the final decision should be. And so as of today, I do not have a final decision on whether or not annexation is in the best interest of the city. It has come to my attention recently that before we even approved the tax sharing agreement, there had been discussions between the county and the city staff, I was not aware of, where the county and the city discussed the need for the key terms of the MOU to come to the city council before the tax sharing agreement or the application to LAFCo were approved. And I am only now finding out that those discussions were happening before we were asked to approve a tax sharing agreement or the application to LAFCo. So part of my frustration has been with the process. It has been the fact that we didn't have accurate financial projections for even the cost of the fire service before the tax sharing agreement was approved. We have still not to this day had a 5, 10, 20-year estimate of what the impact of our total budget would be. And I know that you can argue about whether or not it is necessary to decide long-term whether or not this is a good financial decision. Personally, I feel that if you're making a decision that is forever, you should at a minimum look at how that decision impacts at least 5 years your total budget and not just one particular line item. In terms of those items for discussion in the MOU, I know that the council has not met as a group in open or closed session to discuss the terms of the MOU. It came up earlier when the county fire chief was speaking that the county has a draft of that MOU, but that has not come to the city at this point, at least not to the council. So one of my concerns is that there are some fairly large items, including that $4 million from the East Area 1 development that was for public safety, police, and fire, the settlement money from the Santa Clara wastewater explosion that came out of our general fund that the county has expressed that they wanted, even though that was our general fund money, and land that we're supposed to get through the East Area 1 development. That one thing that has not been addressed today was that LAFCo had mandated that the city build a fire station at East Area 1, and the report today didn't say whether or not they're going to require the fire district, if annexation is approved, to build that station out at East Area 1, as they only talked about remodeling Station 81. Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah. And I think our staff can follow up regarding the question regarding East Area 1 and the fire station site after the public testimony.
Thank you. While it's really difficult to separate yourself as a mayor and an individual resident of Santa Paula, it kind of confuses my question to you in that you made a statement that the city had made an agreement to bring the MOU to City Council prior to the LAFCo application. And so I'm trying to separate that out for you as the mayor and you as a resident in that conversation. So can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Just that it has come to my attention that city staff and the county had discussed that at least the major points of concern that would be in the MOU should have come to the council for discussion before the tax sharing agreement was approved and before the application was made to LAFCo. That was a discussion that I have become aware of now that was happening between city staff and the county that never came to the council.
Okay.
So that's part of where my concern comes in with the process.
As it was pointed out, that was brought up at the Board of Supervisors, is that right? That the MOU would come?
I don't remember the details of that, do you?
Yes.
Thank you.
But as I look at the LAFCo law, it's not a requirement for this
Right.
decision.
Any other question? Chris Mahan?
Chairman Freeman, members of the commission, my name's Chris Mann. I represent the Ventura County Professional Firefighters Association, and in turn we represent the firefighters that are affected from both agencies. We've actually represented the firefighters in Santa Paula for a number of years, more than 15, as well as our members at the county. Our primary role is to make sure that the firefighters are, on both sides, are treated fairly and equitably in the process, that the firefighters who are currently in the district aren't disadvantaged, and neither are the firefighters who would be coming over from Santa Paula. And to that end, we've come very, very close. I know there's a lot of talk about the items that'll go into the MOU between the city and the county. A lot of those are personnel issues. And I can tell you that we're down to really just a couple of items that from our perspective, that are left to be worked out, and they're not major ones. The relationship between the firefighters and the county and the city go well beyond just the fact that they're represented by the same union. They work together, they train together, and I've been able to actually have some assistance to the firefighters in Santa Paula as they've upgraded their training, brought in, basically worked to improve things to where they become much, much closer in their interactions and how they operate to how the county operates, so that we can effectively operate seamlessly. I'm here in support of annexation. The firefighters from both agencies are very much in support of annexation. In Santa Paula, they recognize the condition of the Santa Paula Fire Department and the finances of the city. And despite some of the other testimony that's been here today, I can tell you that regardless of what the county has for fire stations, the fire stations in Santa Paula are not adequate to house firefighters or modern-day firefighting equipment. That's on top of the fact that they're old stations. One of them's 80 years old. You wouldn't expect that an 80-year-old building would be in a condition to house the fire apparatus or the personnel of today. They know that the county fire department has the resources to provide the same level of service or higher, and that they can fund any needed improvements. Now, after seeing some of the opposing annexation information, I just feel compelled to speak out on a few issues, some of which are not necessarily considerations for this commission, but they're important to the overall process. Like city staff, the county staff, city council, board of supervisors, Santa Paula Fire Department, Ventura County Fire Department, we've looked closely at the finances as well, and we are comfortable that the property tax transfer rate is appropriate. It'll result, at least initially, in less money than the city is currently spending on its fire department, and significantly less than it would take to improve it. Based on the last city manager's report, and taking the 79% equivalent that they're talking about for property tax, it would require 157% of what they currently have in order to upgrade their fire department into the fire department that they want and that they've indicated their needs are for improvement. All of those improvements, whether they're to fire stations, fire engines, many of which are very old, unsafe safety equipment, all of those are in need of upgrade, are in need of improvement, and for the amount of money that I've just talked about. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Laura Espinoza?
Good morning, Commissioners and Chairman Freeman. Happy to offer comment this morning. I'm a 43-year resident of Santa Paula, a former vice mayor in the city of Santa Paula. I served for 8 years on the city council. I would like to identify 2 key points. Hopefully neither of these have been addressed previously. And this is for your consideration in opposition to the proposed annexation of Santa Paula to VCFPD that is covered in the LAFCo handbook and per Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg legislation. 1, there should be no impact regarding environmental justice based on race, culture, or income. This has not been addressed in terms of the racial inequities, the income inequities that our community faces. The city of Santa Paula meets all social determinants of an unhealthy community. All areas of economic and social disparities currently exist in our town of 30,000. No one likes to air out their dirty laundry, but the facts are the facts. All levels of policy making, including yours today, impact our ability to be a financially viable community. 2 major Latino organizations, LULAC and Santa Paula Latino Town Hall, have been working to reduce the socioeconomic disparities through educational equity and equitable allocation of county resources. Currently, of the 9,919 Santa Paula households, 78.7 are Hispanic, 78.7%. 56.8% are Spanish-speaking only. Santa Paula has the 2nd highest child poverty. Santa Paula has the 2nd highest socioeconomic need, rated at 89.3%. 84.2% of students are eligible for free or reduced lunch. Santa Paula has one of the highest percentages of Hispanics living in poverty. These are statistics from the documents released by the County of Ventura Public Health 2017 Community Assessment. Section 3.3.1.2D, the extension of services would be financially infeasible. There's a definition in your handbook. The proposed plan is not feasible under Section 560.38.5. Feasible means capable of being accomplished in a successful manner within a reasonable time, taking into account economic, legal, social, and technological factors. There is history and pattern established at all levels of government decision-making in Ventura County that have created intentional and unintentional institutional bias against rural, poor communities of color in the Santa Clara Valley, from the Community College District's educational inequity for educational services through the passage of a bond measure back in 2000 that did not serve our students in the Valley, to the County of Ventura, lack of equitable allocation of health and social services in our Valley. Both of those areas, yes, we're working with those administrations to rectify, but nonetheless, they have impacted our Valley and our city of Santa Paula. Further, this proposal should not be approved. Section F, the proposal appears to be motivated by other motives not in the public interest, and I would result in an unacceptable significant adverse impact to the socio-economic environment as determined by your commission. A decision to take 80% of our property tax would leave an already poor rural community with no options of expansion of that property tax base. We are 4.5 square miles and almost completely built out. And our voters have voted to maintain the agricultural environment under SOAR, and increased sales tax opportunities are even more limited, as we do not have the population base to attract big box retailers that would provide additional sales tax. We haven't had an economic developer director in our city since at least the year 2000. There's no prospects here to be raising additional sales tax.
Could you
Under
wrap it?
three.
Excuse me, your time is up.
Okay. Thank you very much, and I would support opposition to this. At the minimum, a complete comprehensive financial analysis should be conducted, and that's part of your mission as well, to do these service reviews and financial evaluations. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no other speaker cards. Okay.
Yeah, Christine.
Excuse me.
Oh.
I didn't get a speaker card, but my 3 minutes, I'd like Mr. Espinosa to continue speaking. I'm a business owner, and my family owns about 25 properties.
Sir, would you come to the microphone and fill out a card, please?
Basically what I was going to say.
Let's give his time to run.
Okay. Okay. Christine Kitchen Master?
Have we moved on to item 11? Because that's the one I'm on for. Okay.
No, you have 3 minutes.
I'm here for item 11.
Oh, you're on item 11. Okay, excuse me.
Madam Chair.
Okay.
I have a request, if I can. I know we heard a little bit from the Ventura County Firefighters Association about the MOA, and I was wondering if we can have the Ventura County Fire Chief talk about some of the questions that have been raised today regarding it.
Do you come forward, sir?
Thank you.
Sure, I'm back. And I know the questions come up from both sides, both now Santa Paula city side and from our side, as far as what the board direction was related to what was approved at the July 27th meeting. I had the opportunity to go back and read what the recommendations were and what was approved by the board. The MOA was actually part of the discussion in there, and it wasn't one of the specific 4 items that the board approved. What we found as we were going through this process, and for all of this is brand new, it's the first time we've ever done an annexation, we were under the impression it needed to be completed before the LAFCo meeting, and what we found, and what you've heard through Kai's recommendation, is that we had the ability to actually go through the LAFCo process, have it approved, but contingent, on both parties, the city of Santa Paula and the county of Ventura, coming to some kind of agreement after the fact. And should we not be able to come to that agreement, that the decision that your board may make today or at a later time would be basically vacated if we didn't come to some kind of agreement. So I just wanted to clarify that, especially when I was suddenly concerned that I wasn't following board direction. So I am.
And I am not concerned that you weren't following the board direction, but looking at the substantive parts of the MOA, you don't see those changing. It sounds like from what we're hearing, discussions about, training levels of staff and all, but as far as things like the actual property tax amount, the facilities, what will be in place with the MOA, those kind of things are already nailed down. You're just kind of working on the details.
For sure, and there are items obviously in there that may not be acceptable to Santa Paula City Council, and in which case we'll have to go back and renegotiate or rediscuss. And if we can't come to agreement, as I said, then obviously the annexation, should it be approved, would not move forward. And just to address the concern that there was discussions going on, there have been discussions going on for the last 2.5 years. Behind the scenes about what it would take to just at least start pushing us in the direction to just even determine whether it was feasible for us to spend the staff time and the necessary resources to explore this. So absolutely there are discussions that go on behind the scenes, but none of our discussions obligate our our decision makers to actually approving those items. So those will, at some point in time, go before both the Board of or I should say the Board of Directors as the fire district and the Santa Paula City Council for input and approval or not. So, any questions related to the MOA?
Yes, no, I have a question.
I was just going to, go ahead.
Oh, excuse me. It was brought up that the unincorporated area surrounding Santa Paula would be handled differently than it is now. Those two fire stations would be taken over by the county.
So it is.
And now would have all that additional responsibility. How is it?
For sure.
How is it now run?
So right now, and the speakers are accurate. The reason that this can work is because back in the days long ago when fire departments formed, they oftentimes placed their fire stations without consideration where adjoining forces were. So we do have 3 fire stations, 2 in Santa Paula City and the 1 county fire station that we're not calling it closing, we're actually relocating it into the city. But that's what allows us to actually be able to afford this proposal is eliminating the overlap and the inefficiency from having 3 stations. Our studies all show that we can adequately protect the city of Santa Paula and our unincorporated areas from those 2 existing fire stations.
Is that different than it is now?
It's going to be different in that all the areas are currently protected from 3 fire stations. So it is different. And in the absence of being able to do that, it would be truly unaffordable for us to be able to do it. And, as far as, just to add clarification for anybody that read the Star yesterday, I know they've since corrected a misstatement in there that response times would actually be slower if the county provided services in the city of Santa Paula. It's completely inaccurate. We'll be responding the same or better equipment out of the existing 2 fire stations. The response time should be exactly the same.
Are there other questions?
Madam Chair, I'm not sure if we have other comments, but I just want to thank, I don't have any comments for the chief, but okay. I don't. But I just want to thank everybody that's here today, all the speakers and also the concerns that were stressed, by the many individuals and so forth. My recommendation, I'm going to make a motion here.
Shall I close the public hearing?
I'd like more comments before we make a recommendation.
Well, we can make
questions.
We can make if you like, a motion, and then comments can come. If you want to make your comments on, fine.
Okay.
Is there a second?
No.
No.
Okay. Were you? Okay. So I have a few more questions.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. So we talk about 79% of the property tax is going to go under this new agreement. I don't know if you're going to answer this or not. So my question is, right now in the city's budget, how much of that property tax goes to the fire department now?
My name is Michael Rock. I'm the city manager for the city of Santa Paula, and it's not 79%. It's 47 to 48% of our property tax will go to the fire district. That number is not correct.
Okay, wait. So you're saying that through everything we've heard in the staff report and all the comments, that 79% of the property tax value is not the accurate number?
It's 79% of a portion of our property tax. It's not the full property tax that we receive in revenue. We receive $2.6 million in lieu property tax for MLVF, which will not go to the fire district and will be 100% retained by the city throughout any agreement that we would have for annexation. So if you look at the $6.4 million in total revenue that we collect, $3 million of that will go to the county district. We would never give away 79% of our tax to one single agency. Nobody would do that.
Okay, so just to clarify here, 79% of the property taxes that you collect are not going to go under this new agreement?
It's the secured and unsecured property tax that would be calculated as 79%. There's an additional $2.6 million in property tax in lieu of MLVF, the motor vehicle license fee, that we consider part of our property tax. And we will retain 100% of that money in perpetuity. It's property tax. It isn't anything else.
47%?
Okay, so Could I totally confuse this issue here? I guess my question was, I was trying to compare apples to apples.
Mm-hmm.
And if right now, the portion of what the city pays for their own city fire,
It's about $3 million, correct?
it's the same as what's going to be almost that you're going to pay.
It's almost identical to what the district would get.
Almost identical
Yeah.
to what the county's going to get
Yes,
into
that's
this group.
correct.
Okay.
We're not carving out a whole nother chunk of our property tax to give to the district. We're not doing that.
So you're basically shifting what you're currently paying to the
That's
county.
correct.
And so
That's
there's not
correct.
going to be an additional
There's no,
impact on
yeah,
the budget.
right. That's exactly the point I'm trying to make. We're not giving the district an additional chunk of property tax to enter this agreement.
So it's not going to create a budget shortfall because of the annexation?
No, no.
Okay, well, that's interesting. What happens if the city retains the city fire department? What happens financially to your budget if you don't enter into this agreement and the annexation?
Well, our challenge would be upgrading the station's equipment and training. We would have a very difficult time doing that, whereas the district could do it within the next 10 years. They would be coming up with a plan to replace the fire stations, upgrade equipment and engines, and we would have to borrow money and go into debt to do that, or raise more taxes, which most people behind me don't like to hear that.
Okay.
We'd have to come up with new additional revenues.
Thank you. I think that's all for you. I have a question for our staff. I want to know, I'm always looking at the good public policy and the process that we go through and evaluating everything according to the law. So in working through this annexation, was everything complied with the LAFCo law, with every law that we have a responsibility to uphold?
Yes, it was, as reflected in the staff report. The proposal does comply with LAFCo law and your commission policies.
So we looked at Prop 218 and realized that we're all fine within that. Mr. Walker?
I was not aware of that issue until today, but I can tell you it's not an issue.
Okay.
That this transaction doesn't invoke any issue related to Prop 218.
Okay. I mean, sitting at the Oxnard Harbor District, we have $200 million of assets, and we need to make sure that we have enough reserve balance to prepare for things that happen and equipment that happens. So I can certainly understand that it may look like a revenue stream, but you need to look at all of the assets that you hold in keeping a good financial situation. So, okay, I think that's all the questions I have.
I've got one. Kai, in the City of Santa Paula's report to us, they're asking for this commission to not only approve the annexation, but by doing so acknowledge that the construction of a public safety facility is no longer necessary to serve the city on East Area 1. Is that going to be integrated into this approval? What does that look like mechanically? And are we prepared to acknowledge that fact, if it is in fact?
So the East area.
The question I have is with that.
Mhm.
It was a condition of LAFCo on the East Area 1 annexation. Do we have to remove that condition?
The condition, the requirement to provide a fire station in East Area 1 was not a condition of LAFCo. That came out of the environmental review done by the city as part of its entitlement process for the East Area 1 specific plan. Now, as you might recall, that's a very large development, 1,500 houses, several 100,000 square feet of other uses. Now, at the time, the city determined that the fire station, the fire department, given its current resources and staffing, was unable to provide adequate fire protection services for the area in the specific plan once it's developed. So the city put that requirement on that there be a new fire station located in the specific plan to provide that service. However, the approval stated that it did not need to be constructed until occupancy of the 500th residential unit. LAFCo determined that that was too long to wait, that put people in jeopardy. So LAFCo's condition was that the development agreement be changed so the facility was to be constructed before the 250th residential unit. Now, the understanding was there would then be 3 stations in the city of Santa Paula. It turns out that, currently Santa Paula cannot staff 3 stations. The $4 million that the developer was going to put toward the construction of a new safety facility is not adequate to construct a safety facility. So if one were to be constructed, the city was going to have to put in millions of dollars to see that construction through, which apparently they are unable to do. Now, the Fire Protection District, based on their analysis, they can provide adequate fire protection services to the area within the specific plan from the 2 current fire stations. They would not need a 3rd fire station. So if this annexation goes through, the assumption would be that the city will modify the approval of the specific plan to remove the requirement of a 3rd fire station. And that would just render LAFCo's condition about when it gets constructed moot. So there's nothing that would need to be done in that case by your commission.
Any other questions? Commissioner Parvin?
Yes, thank you. I think maybe the city manager can answer this question, but maybe everybody else knows it. I just couldn't find it in the information. The county incorporated area and cities currently in the fire protection district assess a fire facilities fee for all new development. Does Santa Paula do that?
Yeah, I would think so. I'm new, so I just started.
Well, you can use that for another week, but it doesn't work after that.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the case. Just to be clear, the $4 million that Limonera was going to give the city for a fire station still has to be negotiated within the MOU discussion.
Again, we're coming back to the MOU.
Yeah.
That's where my issues are.
That will be discussed and negotiated. But the city's still required to have public safety presence in East Area 1.
Right.
And we need a way to pay for that.
Well, you came at a good time then, didn't you?
Yes.
Thank you.
Madam Chair. Commissioner Zaragoza, I guess we're back to a motion point here. And so, I feel like this annexation is supported by the city of Santa Paula. It's been supported by the county fire, the board of supervisors. We followed all the LAFCo laws in reviewing it. County fire chief said that there's not going to be a detriment to other cities if the annexation goes through. And certainly Santa Paula seems to be benefiting from a public safety point of view here. I would be in favor of the annexation. However, not having the MOU in play before we make that decision just gives me a little concern for pause. So I'm wondering if there's a way that we can have an out to be able to revisit the decision in the event that the MOU doesn't meet up to all of the requirements that we've stated forward as LAFCo has purview.
As with the not having the MOU in place and having the citizens have a protest vote, should that MOU be in place before there's a protest vote on the?
Just to address some of those timing issues.
Yeah.
In order for this commission to consider the terms of the MOA, it would have to continue this hearing. It would not be able to approve the annexation on the condition that an MOA is brought back later for you then to decide you want to change the approval.
Okay.
So to achieve that, you would have to continue this hearing until a point in time when the MOA is available to be reviewed.
Yeah, it just feels a little preemptive to not have it all wrapped up prior to coming to LAFCo.
But I also wanted to address the chair's question about the protest proceeding. The protest proceeding timing would be triggered by your commission's approval of the annexation. So if that happened today, the timing of that protest proceeding would be triggered. and that would run independent of the timing of an MOA being negotiated. So it's conceivable that and most likely, just given timing, that the protest proceeding time would end before the city council or the board of directors of the fire district actually considers an MOA.
And that would take care of that.
I thought we had asked our executive director if the issues in the MOA would impact the conditions of approval that LAFCo has on this project. I thought we already addressed that.
Right, yeah, there's nothing nothing has been indicated to me that the items in the memorandum of agreement that need to be resolved have any impact on the level of service and the revenue stream that would pay
It's
for it.
kind of going back to what it is that LAFCO is deciding here today.
And that's a personnel issue more than anything else, Madam Chair. Excuse me and I think Councilmember Hernandez might help us out.
Madam Chair, if I may have some information to help address Commissioner Rooney's concern. I was looking at this in detail last night, and again, it reminded me that under the resolution that you're being asked to approve, LAFCO 17-08, it does say as part of that resolution, item 10, the last item, the annexation shall not be recorded unless and until the Ventura County Fire Protection District and the City of Santa Paula have executed a memorandum of agreement addressing to their satisfaction matters related to and necessary for the annexation and plan for services to be implemented.
And Kai, you spoke about that initially.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, then I will make a motion to approve the...
I think there was one other question.
Is there?
No, actually, the comment I wanted to make is because there are still some loose ends that need to be tied up. It's, we have presentation from the Santa Paula mayor as well as the city of Ventura. I don't think it would be painful or harmful at all to delay this, to give them additional time and make the decision after they have been able to work with the others.
No,
Commissioner Roth?
that would be not my recommendation.
Well, I was starting to make my motion
Yeah.
and got interrupted. So that I didn't hear a motion by Commissioner De La Pena. So
Go make your
I
motion.
would like to make a motion to approve the annexation of the Ventura County Fire Protection District, annexation Santa Paula, LAFCO 1708.
And I'd like to second that. I'd like to share that with that, of course, we have recommendation A and B from staff, that to determine that the action to approve we're exempt from CEQA, number one, and number two, that the adopt resolution 17-08 makes a determination of approving LAFCO -708 Ventura to a fire protection annexation to Santa Paula. And the reason I'm doing that second is because it was 4-1 that was approved by the city council. The city council of Santa Paula makes policy. I know we've talked about financial, we talked about some of the projects that haven't been done, but I think one of the council members mentioned is this is just good government. And I believe that it's a safety issue. And I think it's important that we protect the residents of Santa Paula. I think it's important that we protect the firefighters of Santa Paula. And I believe also that by joining the Ventura County Fire Department District, you have superior equipment, superior service. You have helicopters, you have bulldozer, you have everything that you need that I think is really important. I would like to have that in my city, and we do have it, thank God. And again, it was shared too that we need new equipment, we need a new fire station. How are we going to pay for that? This is an opportunity to enhance that property. And I believe that everybody's in agreement. The firefighters in agreement, both firefighters, whether Santa Paula or county firefighters are in agreement. And one of the questions was asked, how are you going to service Santa Paula if we have to service a county? You're really actually taking over those firefighters. They're going to be there. All we're doing is changing the management and the structure of how we pay for it, is my understanding. Is that correct, Chief? So that's why I'm really seconding this motion that we approve it today, approve staff's recommendation A and B, and thank you.
Are there any other comments? Yes, Commissioner Roth.
I'd just like to say a couple words. I do see this going forward as approval. I'm not sure if we should do it right now, and there's a couple reasons. I have heard Well, first off, LAFCo here exists to ensure the orderly formation of cities and special districts. So far, it sounds like this has been in the works for at least 2 years, but we do have several cities indicating to us that it would be helpful to have a little more time. We also have the fire chief from the Ventura County Fire District expressing that he cannot foresee any negative effects to delaying the approval of this annexation in the sense that it won't delay the process of formulating this MOU and coming to an agreement. I don't see why we can't delay this until that MOU has been received. I have not heard one negative reason why we should do that. So I would be voting against approval in favor of something more like, let's have a couple more months to get this figured out before we come together and agree on this. That's my take on it, and I submit my time.
Madam Chair, if we just can I ask a quick question? If we approve it today, doesn't it go back to the City Council again? Yeah. And for how does that process work again now?
The annexation itself will not go back to either the City Council or the Board of Directors. What will go back to the City Council and the Board of Directors of the district will be an MOA for approval.
And if the MOA does not happen?
And if the MOA does not happen, then as was explained earlier, after 12 months, your approval will have lapsed and it will be done with no annexation.
So they do have an out.
And, if I may, I do see a reason why we should move forward today. We have a definite benefit, I think, to the community. $12 million in, facilities and all that can go. I don't think there's any doubt up here, I don't think, or within the city, that there won't be an improvement. Whether you need it or not, this would definitely be an improvement, and I think the experts are the ones that can tell us whether it's needed or not. But what we have before us is an MOA that has to meet our requirements. If it doesn't meet requirements, it doesn't meet LAFCo's approval. So that is already conditioned in there. And what are those requirements in the MOA? We're hearing what the issue is here is differences in expenses, the cost of things. The finances seem to be the major issue on this. And I think when we look at it, the city is going to benefit. We're not seeing the concern of 300, was it a $3 million rather, that it would be the same either way. And I just have to say, I really see this as good government. Martine said smart government, because it is so unusual when governments decide to merge together for a regional benefit, particularly in our county, if I might say so. And I just really have to laud the city, which had to go through a lot of consternation to get to the point where you got 4 council members who wanted to do this. I think one of the benefits we have is our fire chief is a CPA, so being able to look at the funding and how it can be worked out, looking at the timing of this too in terms of when the redevelopment agencies expire. Things came together very well to put this together. There will be 2 more hearings on this. So I just think, opening this up to, Ventura has concerns, but hey, they wouldn't mind getting into this district too, which I love to hear, because it is better to have a regional safety protection in our fire department. I think it's also the same thing with our sheriff's department. You have the economy of scales, you have the benefits of having a better service, and no matter what your income level is, everybody's safety is important. So I just really think that we have an opportunity here to stay within our guidelines and even go as far as to conditioning, making sure that MOA is consistent with our vote today. I fear if you delay it, you're going to have a lot more opportunities for people to, they have their potential for a protest vote. They have a potential to petition their city council. The city council is taking a very hard decision. They're putting their potential re-elections online, when they make a huge decision like this. But it's so respectful, I think, of the city of Santa Paula's fire department, everything from, including that in the architecture of the buildings, of the new buildings that they will get, but also incorporating them into the contracts, figuring out the systems, because they're in different retirement systems. There's been a lot of homework that's been put together. So I just hate to kind of throw that out and leave kind of in the abyss and have that come back again. We have all the pieces in place here, and if your only concern is the MOA, we've conditioned the requirement that MOA has to be consistent. So I'm prepared to support it today, and I just really laud the smart government of coming together for these government efficiencies for the safety of our whole county.
If I may just respond to that, I'm a very big proponent of having regional fire services, and it would be wonderful if the city of Ventura and Oxnard and Fillmore would actually join the district. But that doesn't mean that we cannot give those who request more time in order to iron out things, any problems, any issues. And I do feel that this is a major decision for the city of Santa Paula. This will definitely improve public service, and it probably, will happen one way or another. I don't see any harm in having everybody on board and having buy-in from everyone representing cities. It is so important to get input from residents and neighbors. And I see absolutely no harm in doing that. In fact, I hope that this will actually be a time where we can come together and look at recomputing the formula of all of the cities who are participating. Because while Santa Paula feels it is unfairly paying more, perhaps, some of the opponents, the city of Thousand Oaks pays threefold. And yes, we have more calls of service, but there needs to be perhaps more parity. That is an issue for another day, another time. But again, I will definitely support giving a little bit more time to everyone so that you can iron things out. But again, I see this as a public improvement or public safety improvement for the city of Santa Paula.
Commissioner Parvin?
Well, clearly, there's regional efficiencies, and I am a big fan of our fire district. I'm sure all of us are. And I know all of us want to go forward together. It would be great if we were all one fire district. But Ventura had a lot of questions. And again, I'm in my role as commissioner to support cities. And so one of our cities wants some more answers. And I don't see why we can't give them more time to get their answers. And at the same time, I've been surprised by many things in this county. And I don't want to be surprised by something that upsets me when I see the MOU later in time. I would like to see the MOU completed and come back. And then I can just file this away. And I will be comfortable. Because I don't want a surprise later, and sometimes there are surprises. And for that reason, I want to bring it back.
I'll call for the question.
Yes. I haven't had a chance to comment yet, so I'm sort of on the spot here. If I read this correctly. My question is, if we had an agreement that we'd have an MOU in place before it came to LAFCo, what was the reason it came now?
I'm not sure I understand the question. I'm sorry.
Well, I guess at the Board of Supervisors laid out that the MOU would be in place prior to LAFCo hearing. Am I correct on that?
I don't know. I wasn't following their process.
I'm all in favor of the city of Santa Paula's direction to be part of the fire district. I agree with commissioners that there's a benefit of service to everybody to share those resources. I mean, there just really is. And I've often wondered the question, too, why there are 2 separate or 3 or 4 or 5 separate fire agencies. But I really am thinking about this, and I know it has nothing to do whether there's a benefit to the fire district or not. But I think I cannot support going forward at this time. I'd like to have a continuance until the MOU. We can take a look at it. So there was
I just have to say I think it's interesting because, I think it originated out of Moore Park and Steve Cuney and the concern about the percentage of the property tax that Moore Park pays compared, so it just kind of gives an opportunity for unraveling. That's my concern, is so much has been, it's really hard to put something together, really easy to take things apart. And I just do, support this moving forward. If there isn't the votes here, I'm sorry that it has that potential of, that unraveling, but I do want to see it move forward. So that's what
Madam Chair, can I share something? I know we're going to vote here pretty soon, but I just attended, the 2017 LAFCo conference in San Diego. And one of the things that was shared with us in San Diego was, as LAFCo members, even though I'm a county supervisor, we have city representatives, we have harbor representatives and representatives, we're here really to put our LAFCO hats on, take our county hats off, our city hats off, and look at really what we're here for. We're really here to staff's recommendation. We're really not, I know that Sao Paulo has financial problems. I know that MOU is going to happen. I know that Chief just said it, but we need to put our LAFCO hats on, I think, as LAFCO members. And LAFCO members was to preserve an open space, to promote orderly growth, to prevent urban sprawl, to encourage orderly boundaries, to assure efficient and sustainable public services. It's a big one. And wear our LAFCO hats on, not our city hats, not our county hats, and so forth. So I think that we need to really do our LAFCO duties. I'd just like to share that, for whatever it's worth.
Okay, I'll call for the question. I think we'll have a roll call vote, please. Okay.
Commissioner De La Pena.
No.
Commissioner Parks.
Yes.
Commissioner Parvin.
No.
Commissioner Rooney.
Yes.
Commissioner Ross. No. Commissioner Zaragoza.
Yes.
Chair Freeman.
No. Thank you.
I do expect this to come back to LAFCO shortly. Fire Chief says month away, maybe 2 months. It'll be before us, and we can approve it at that time.
Do we need a separate motion?
I would like to make a motion.
But I'd like clarification from legal counsel first.
Sure.
So what is the legal determination of denying the annexation such as this? And is there a waiting time for the applicant to come back?
There are a couple of different issues at play. One is whether there can be a motion to continue, but since that didn't happen, there's an issue of whether it has been denied. If it has been denied, there is a waiting period unless they bring it back to your commission and ask for a waiver of that waiting time. I believe it's at least a one year period, but your commission can waive that if asked.
So,
can we make a motion?
Legal clarification. So the action we just took, was that a denial of the annexation?
For 1 year.
We can make a motion to continue the item.
I'd like legal
We just
counsel to
didn't
answer that,
approve
please.
Yeah, I think, speaking here, I believe that since the motion was to approve the recommended action, that was denied. Because each of the folks on the record who voted against it expressed the consistent reason why it was being denied, I believe it is still available to your commission to make a motion to continue, so we don't avoid that issue of that statute that says there has to be a 1 year waiting period when an annexation application has actually been denied.
Which is the motion that I wanted to make, is to continue. So I'll move to continue.
You want a time
Continue
frame
to a
on
time
that?
certain? or-
If I may, you probably should pick a date certain because
Do we
there
meet
is
in
a time
December?
period. There is no meeting in
No.
December. The next
Okay, then
meeting will be
January.
January. Okay.
I'll second that.
Is there a second to that?
Just a second.
Mary Ann did.
Maria
Is
did.
is that
But I
going to
mean-
result in any progress?
Well, I mean, I guess to continue this on, would that be an appropriate amount of time for them to come back with this memorandum of agreement? That seems to be the sticking point here, right?
Right.
So we need
could
to see
set a
the draft of
6-month
the
date,
agreement.
right? A 6-month date, and if it gets done sooner, it could come forward.
Let me throw a statutory bailiwick into that.
Okay. Why don't you?
The continuance date has to be within 70 days of today. So you can come back in January, if it's still not ready by then, you call the matter, you can continue it again after that.
Okay, so the motion is to come back in January. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
I'm sorry, she had seconded.
I already seconded. Sorry. But the motion is to have them come back with the
continue
MOA.
it.
Or ask for a continuance.
May I ask a clarifying question I think is important? By asking to have the MOU completed, are
Draft.
you asking to have the City Council and the Board of Supervisors action on the MOU done, or just have it negotiated out? They're the only two
We have
agencies.
no
that have
say
to-
on
Draft.
the MOU. This is just,
Yes, so that's why I'm trying
And
to
it will
understand what it
happen.
is you're
Final
asking.
draft. A final draft of the MOA.
I just wonder, what is it that will be accomplished?
That's my question,
Are
too.
you going to go inside that MOU and decide which should be changed in it? I mean, if you have the city and the county fire departments agreeing it, we don't support it? I mean, that's the proposal that
Yeah.
you're putting out here by not wanting to support this till you see the MOU.
is ever-
But you're saying you believe that what they may come up with is not going to be sufficient.
And is that a
And-
responsibility?
My point was actually that the protest vote is going to happen before there's the MOU. To me, that seems like the citizens are not getting a full picture on what the agreement is. That's just my thinking.
Do we have?
It has nothing to do with what's in the agreement. It has to do with the fact that the residents can have a protest vote and not really have the full picture of what's in the agreement.
Madam Chair, I don't fully understand that. What, if we find something in the MOU and it comes back to us, what legal responsibility do we have as LAFCo members? Go ahead. Am I saying that correctly?
Well, if the MOA comes back, assuming the pending motion is approved for sake of this discussion, the MOA is brought back to your commission, and most likely it won't be signed, sealed, and approved by January because of the need for both the city council and the board of directors to consider it, and it sounds like it still needs to be completed. Then you'll have to continue it down the line until it is completed. When it comes back to you and it's been approved by those two boards, your commission still has a lot of leeway in terms of conditions you put on an annexation. And you could, if you don't like something in there, that could serve as justification for any one of you to decide you don't want to approve the annexation. You cannot necessarily compel the city and the fire district to agree to something other than what's in there. But if it's not something that you find acceptable as an individual commissioner, that could be a basis for a vote against the annexation.
Whether we like it or not like it, it's only in the environment of whether it meets our requirements of LAFCo. It's not whether we like it or don't like it. Is there something in the MOU, and we've asked our staff that could make it so that, is there anything that could make it so this approval would not be exactly as what we approve? And I'm hearing that there isn't anything in that. So I know we're in discussions phase. I just don't really understand what your outcome is, other than let's get everyone together and they'll be happy. But how could they approve an MOU or MOA between the city and the fire district that you are not going to approve?
My concern really is for more feedback from the city of Ventura, as well as giving the mayor a chance to go through everything.
Oh, so it's not just, okay.
That is my main concern.
Okay.
The MOU is not so much my concern as it is
the
Mayor
delay.
Parvin's concern.
Okay.
All right, there was a motion and a second to continue till January. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
Chair Freeman, I would ask for a roll call vote so
Okay.
we have it clear for the record.
Roll call vote, please.
Alternate Commissioner Bill De La Pena?
Yes.
Commissioner Parks? I'm sorry? Commissioner Parvin?
Aye.
Commissioner Rooney?
No.
Commissioner Ross?
Aye.
Commissioner Zaragoza?
Abstain.
Chair Freeman?
Yes,
Yes?
I don't think we have.
You do.
We do have 4 yeses.
What is your vote, Chair Freeman?
Four.
She voted
Did you-
in favor.
You voted in favor.
Yeah. So that's approved.
So it will come back in January? Is that where we are?
So, clarification, we continued the item, we didn't table it, right? We continued it.
We just said it.
Okay.
That's right. Okay.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Moving on now to item 11, sphere of influence reviews for the Barnesdale Cemetery District and El Rancho Simi Cemetery District. And I want to thank the people that came here for those 2 items, and my apologies, I should have taken you earlier. I'm sorry. We'll come back in January.
No, she means we generally end at 12.
Yeah, we're on.
Motion to continue the meeting.
Right. We already did 12.
No, we need to make a motion to move past noon.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not following you. Okay. We need a motion to move past noon.
Only if it won't be a lot longer.
Yeah.
How's everybody
Do I
doing
have a
on time?
motion?
I'll make the motion to continue this meeting past our noon deadline.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
No.
Okay.
Uh,
Staff on item 11?
You vote no.
Yes. One voted no. I always vote my mind. I know.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. This is agenda item number 11. It's a sphere of influence reviews for the Barnesdale Cemetery District and the El Rancho Simi Cemetery District. And I will start with Barnesdale. So the Barnesdale Cemetery District does own the Barnesdale Cemetery, and it offers burial and other related services to the cities of Fillmore, the unincorporated community of Barnesdale, just south of the city of Fillmore, and to some unincorporated areas basically surrounding Fillmore. The commission accepted a municipal service review for the district in 2007, and at that time, consistent with the recommendations of that MSR, the commission modified the sphere of influence of the district's boundaries to exclude all of this area to the north, which is national forest. So the red here represents the sphere of influence as amended by the commission in 2007. The commission then reviewed the sphere of influence in 2012 and determined that it did represent anticipated service area for the district in the future and made no changes. And I did meet with the chair of the board and the district manager a couple of months ago to go over the sphere of influence, and they agreed that it still does accurately represent their anticipated service area. So we are recommending that no changes be made to that sphere of influence. And now the El Rancho Simi Cemetery District. Again, boundaries are in yellow and the district sphere of influence is in red. The El Rancho Simi Cemetery District owns and operates the Simi Valley Public Cemetery, and they offer burial and other related services to the city of Simi Valley and some surrounding unincorporated areas. So back in 2007, the commission did accept a municipal service review on the cemetery district. And there were several determinations that came out of that service review. Among them was that there was limited information as to the cemetery capacity. They did not know how many available plots they had. There was record-keeping deficiencies. Again, you go back to not knowing how many plots they had. There was an uncertain financial status. They were risking default on an improvement loan that was granted from the city of Simi Valley. They had no method to track the availability and sale of plots. And they were out of compliance regarding the preparation of annual budgets and financial reports. Now, as a result of those determinations, the commission made several recommendations. And these were that the district work with the city of Simi Valley to restructure the loan, that they address the financial management and reporting issues, that the Board of Trustees file statements of economic interests, which wasn't happening, and that they hire or contract with administrative assistants in meeting financial mandates, meeting debt obligations, maximizing assets, conducting an inventory of cemetery plots, and maintaining records. Now, if the commission or if the district was unable to do that, then the commission recommended that they start explore restructuring options with the city of Simi Valley or the county. So that was adopted. Those are the recommendations adopted in 2007 by your commission. 5 years passed, and the commission reviewed the sphere of influence for the district in 2012. And it was determined that the district made only very limited progress in addressing the concerns identified by LAFCo in the MSR and in those recommendations. And several outstanding issues remained with the district. There was still record-keeping concerns. In fact, the district could not provide the number of interments on an annual basis over the previous 5 years. They just were not keeping those records. Statements of economic interest had not been filed by the Board of Trustees. The district remained in default of the improvement loan from the city of Simi Valley. They just stopped paying toward it. Audits for the previous 5 years had not been completed, and they did not hire or contract with an administrative professional to address all of the administrative and management deficiencies. Now, that was the outcome of the 2012 review. Unfortunately, there was not a recommendation to dissolve the district because there was, without the city of Simi Valley or the county stepping forward to take over operation of it, then the need would have just been unmet. So the commission, again, took no action other than noting these recommendations and really imploring the district to try to address them. So fast forward to this year, 5 years later, and the district is up for a review again. And I have met with the district manager, and we have exchanged multiple phone calls and emails, and they have provided a lot of information at my request. And I'm happy to inform you that they have made substantial progress in addressing many, if not most, of the concerns that the commission had expressed prior. So they did hire a new district manager in 2016. This current district manager replaced a previous district manager who replaced the older district manager under which a lot of these issues were raised. So they did change administrative staff. The district has adopted annual budgets for the previous 5 years. An audit of the financial statements were completed for years 11 through 15, and that was just completed a few months ago. The district staff, this was quite an effort. They actually went out and inventoried the total number of burial plots in the district and available plots. And that was actually really time-consuming, and it was quite an achievement for them to do that. They implemented a new computer program. This was actually a rather expensive computer program, and it is specifically designed for cemeteries to track the sale and availability of plots. They adjusted the plot burial prices, the plot prices and the cost for burial prices to better reflect the actual costs to the district. That had not been done. It was a comprehensive review of what they were charging. The district actually paid down about $26,000, I believe, to the loan to the city of Simi Valley, and they are working with the city to hopefully forgive that loan. The city has forgiven any interest on the loan, but discussions are still ongoing. The current board members have all filed their statements of economic interest, and this was done before we got involved in the review this year. And the district they've developed a website that includes historical meeting agendas and minutes as well as current agendas and minutes. So they are making substantial progress to address all of these management and financial deficiencies.
Mr. Loma, could I ask a question?
Yes.
At this point? So I know at one point they were very shy on board members. So do you know how many board members they currently have?
I believe they have a full board, right? Yeah, Juanice, the general manager with the district, is here. So if you have any questions
congratulations.
about them, yes.
Okay.
And she's been incredibly helpful with with this
I will
overview.
just say, knowing intimately the workings of the district, they have made incredible progress. And
Yeah, it's quite a success
Yeah.
story. And with that, my recommendation is for the commission to review both spheres and determine no updates are necessary, and that's it. Thank you.
do I have any questions of staff? Yes.
I just had a quick question. Was that the district where there was a criminal activity going on? Okay, that's, okay. You missed that in your report.
I'll move approval.
Yes.
Second.
I have a couple of speaker cards.
Oh.
I was waiting for an answer from him.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Christine Kitchenmaster?
Good morning and mid-afternoon, Chairperson Freeman, Commissioners, General Public, and our Secretary. My name is Christine Kitchenmaster, and I'm here representing myself as a resident of Simi Valley and a former resident of Moore Park. I have resided in both cities for more than half my life, so 12 years total. No, I'm kidding. For over 34 years. Love both communities in the Ventura County. I'm going to give you 3 reasons why I feel that a review and expansion of our sphere of influence makes a lot of sense. On a personal level, personal to the community, public, as well as financial and economic. They will fall under 3 categories, the first being commerce and labor, the second, housing and education, third, the tourism and the benefit to our city. So that kind of covers all aspects of our living, does it not? So first, with commerce and labor, with the 118 freeway now being joined with the 23, there is no way really anyone can get to Moore Park unless they come up through Los Angeles or more frequently through the 118. If they get off that 118 at any point, they are shopping and eating and dining in Simi. So we do have a commercial benefit from Moore Park residents and or visitors in our city of Simi. We've been sister cities for a very, very long time. We don't share a lot of the same businesses because people know they can go to Moore Park for Michael's and come to Simi for Joanne's. Education-wise, it is not uncommon for a graduate from any of our 3 high schools to consider Moore Park College their entry education. So again, a financial benefit, making us more than just sister communities. Penny Mac also sees a lot of Simi residents working in Moore Park, as well as Moore Park saw a lot of people working at B of A when we had that here in Simi, or in Simi. Housing and education. I've been a 30-year member of the Simi Moore Park Association of Realtors. It's always been Simi Moore Park, and now it's Conejo Simi Moore Park Association of Realtors. And as an ambassador for our local Chamber of Commerce in the past and a member of the Tourism Committee, I have seen a lot of crossover as well as tri-chamber events that go as far as Thousand Oaks, Newberry Park, Westlake Village, Simi, and Moore Park chambers combining their efforts to promote local businesses. So again, even from a professional level, these organizations see us as almost one community. On that subject of tourism, and on housing, there are a lot of people who actually do move out of Simi and move west into Ventura, Newberry Park, cooler weather, but they still stay residents of Ventura. So in some respects, they're still in our sphere of influence, having had family in Simi, but they've just grown, right? They've had children in our city, and they've moved out from there. Tourism. Ronald Reagan Library boasts that they get over 1 million visitors a year. And my understanding, having served on the tourism committee with the Simi Valley Chamber of Commerce, is that many of those coming into our town for what's called political tourism stay in Thousand Oaks and Westlake Village. We have 4 hotels, I believe, maybe 5 in Simi, and frequently, having promoted one of them, they're always booked. But again, we have our Cajun festivals. What I'm trying to say is there's so many things that blur the lines between these cities. I think it would be in the best interest of the residents to provide for them the only public access to cemetery burials at a financially agreeable amount, in a city that they may have had roots in anyway. But the biggest reason I'm going to recommend that you consider expanding our sphere of influence north to the coterminous boundary of Piru and Bardstown, north to those two boundaries, west to at least the city of Ventura, south to the LA County line, and east we're already covered with LA County. The reason being is we have grown and we have seen challenges financially. And as it stands with the property taxes we currently have coming in, we may or may not be able to meet those. So as a member of the community, I would like to see this cemetery continue. And it only makes sense, again, on a public level to make our cemetery available to a wider scope, more park specifically as a start, and also to have the benefit of those new houses paying into our cemetery district as well.
Thank you. Teresa Jordan?
Good afternoon, members of the Commission. Teresa Jordan, Simi Valley resident. I have a letter to read into the record, and I have also provided copies for all of you. My letter reads, Dear members of the Commission, I am opposed to Agenda Item 11 and request that this item be continued for the reasons I have given in my September 28th, October 18th, October 26th, October 30th, and November 2nd, 2017 letters, and for the following reasons. 1. For 10 years, I believe that the SOIs for the Bardstown, Piru, and El Rancho Simi Cemetery districts were unchanged. When I saw the staff reports maps, I researched the LAFCo's website. Just 4 months after the May 16, 2007 Municipal Service Review Report public hearing, on September 19, 2007, commissioners approved updates for the 3 cemetery districts' SOIs. In my May 1, 2007 letter with extensive evidentiary materials, please refer to enclosed copy of pages 1, 8, and 9 for the MSR report. I opposed an SOI change for the El Rancho Simi Cemetery District. There were no public comments at the September 19, 2007 public hearing. That staff report said the SOI update was a prerequisite for the cemetery district to become a subsidiary of the city of Simi Valley by encouraging the district to reduce its boundary. The city doesn't want it. The 2007 LAFCo's SOI update was premature. A new MSR report for the 3 cemetery districts is necessary to reflect the LAFCo 2007 SOI changes and the districts state under the 9 determinations categories factors. Not undertaking it will result in misleading the public, cemetery districts, and constituents and other entities every time the 2007 MSR report is referenced in any document. Is an approved SOI update reversible? If so, what is the procedure? Number 2, pages 2, 3, and 4 of the November 15, 2017 staff report state, Piru Cemetery District at the bottom of the pages. It's supposed to be Bardstown. Number 3, page 2, under El Rancho Simi Cemetery District, first paragraph. Simi Valley Public Cemetery is incorrect. Changed to read El Rancho Simi Cemetery District. Please refer to enclosed copies of the County Board of Supervisors July 11, 1995 minutes and the Simi Valley Public Cemetery District Board's June 14, 1995 resolution. 4, page 3, under El Rancho Simi Cemetery District, first sentence, LAFCO staff met with the district's general manager, unlike for Bardstown. She's been there 1 year, half the time for training. Number 5, page 4, the 5th bullet point. It is stated when the district converts an interior roadway to burial plots, this has already been done. 6, page 4, the 8th bullet point. It is stated website and past agendas and minutes of board meetings are posted. This is misleading. They have only been posted since June of 2017. Number 7, page 4, paragraph after the bullet points. First sentence, it is stated, 2017 audit as of May 2017. The current audit is for 2011 to 2015. This is more the reason to have trustees' input, most specifically the treasurer, who has been there since either December of 2013 or January of 2014. Members of the commission, my name, letters, and all evidentiary materials must be included in and with the public hearing staff report as my public testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Is there a motion? What's the pleasure of the commission?
Move approval?
Second. All in favor? Thank you. Thank you for coming up here. We'll go on to item 13, compensation of the executive officer.
Before you move on, I would just like to address one of the speakers and the process for her to perhaps look at expansion of the district, of the Bardsdale district. So I'm wondering if you could perhaps give the process, so as we're looking at the next MSR, if there's more than just one person who's interested in expanding that cemetery district, that she might have a clear understanding of what next steps might be for her to look at the next review.
Yeah, the definition of a sphere of influence is the probable ultimate boundaries of a city or a special district. So without having some type of input or support from those areas that are going to be within the sphere of influence, it's hard to make the determination that it's going to be probable. So typically the commission will amend a sphere of influence for an area that has been designated in a general plan for development, or the commission can do it concurrently with a development. So you know that it's probable that this is going to be part of that sphere. Without some effort by an affected agency to pursue an annexation or to at least look for the interest in an area to be annexed, I think it might be difficult for the commission to justify expanding a sphere of influence into that area. So I hope that answers your question.
So I guess for some advice for her is to work with any of the affected agencies that might be affected by a sphere of influence change.
Absolutely.
Before she comes back.
Right. If the city of Moore Park is interested in becoming part of the district, then the city can lead that effort and devote the resources and pay the fees and that kind of thing, and take the lead, and then come to LAFCo once there has been some decision on part of the city that there is some support for amending the sphere and the district.
All right. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. We'll move on to item 13.
You get a motion for that?
Motion?
For 13?
13.
It's an adjustment.
It's a motion?
Yes,
And
so
is there a
moved.
second?
I'll second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I just want to say, I think it's wonderful that you brought that to everyone's attention with your salary increase. That was very noble. Thank you.
Okay, and we were provided for information only, the update on LAFCo legislation. Did you want to comment further?
No, I really don't have anything to add other than what's in there. I mean, you have LAFCo's position on these different bills and their status. I don't have anything to add unless you have questions.
Well, it's interesting at LAFCo because it's interesting because it's a 501c3, so they're limited on their lobbying ability. They can only allocate about 20% of their funding and time to this effort. So they have to really join with other organizations like the League of California Cities or CSAC and California Special Districts Association, which they spent a lot of time with on the Little Hoover Commission, and CSDA took the lead on those issues. And the primary concern coming up in the new year is the continued effort, because the legislature wants to control locally instead of letting LAFCo or city councils. I mean, there's a trend to have state legislators to impose or take over local decision-making. And so that I see a continued partnership with all of the other entities. And I thought it was well presented. Okay. We have our information item, Executive Officer's Report. Did you want to add anything else?
Just a couple of things. As you know, Chair Freeman, Commissioner Zaragoza, Ross, and alternate Richards attended the LAFCo conference at the end of last month down in San Diego. Once again, it was a fantastic conference, a lot of great information, and it always benefits everyone who goes. Michael and I and Rochelle also went. So thank you for putting that in the budget and allowing that to happen. I am happy to report that, as you recall, your commission nominated Rochelle for Clerk of the Year, the LAFCo Clerk of the Year, which she did win.
Oh, yay! Congratulations, Rochelle.
And the last thing that also happened there, as you know, I've been a voting member of the LAFCo Legislative Committee for a couple of years now. And in the past, the structure of that Ledge Committee has been kind of loose. As long as there's a quorum of board members, there really isn't any type of limitation on the number of executive officers and staff that can participate. And there's been a couple of times on conference calls where there'd be more than 30 people involved, which just, it got out of hand quickly. So Pamela did take to the board some limitations on the membership of the Ledge Committee. So there'd be 5 board members, a legal counsel, and then they wanted to limit the participation of executive officers to only 2 from each region. So 2 from Coastal, Central, North, and South, for a total of 8. So that dramatically limited the number of staff. Pamela did recommend me for one of those positions representing the Coastal region, and the board did approve that. So I'm still a full voting member of the Ledge Committee. So I will, as you've requested, keep you up to date with routine legislative reports for the next year.
Not to take more time, but the interesting discussions, which took a lot of time and a lot of energy, was what is LAFCo?
That's right.
How it's perceived by the public and what LAFCo should do to make people more aware of it. And things like social media, anything, local media to educate the public and city and county officials as well, or just people in general. So there was a big effort placed on that.
No, go ahead. I just want to share
I
something.
was just, and the other interesting part that I thought was I went to the breakout on the islands, and there have been some really aggressive LAFCOs in doing with annexation of islands. I know.
With the ducks. Yeah. I also want to share, that I think the LAFCo was really informative. And one of the things that I keep harping on is LAFCO 101. It's so important, really, and I mentioned it earlier about having our LAFCO hats on and not our supervisorial or city council members, LAFCOs, and to follow, our duties as LAFCO members. I think it was emphasized over and over and over again about preserving open space, promoting orderly growth, prevent urban sprawl, encourage orderly boundaries, assure sufficient and sustainable public services, and keep your LAFCO hat on, because it's so important, because we tend to be biased because we're representing a specific agency. One of the things that also was mentioned, the silver tsunami, that we need to be careful about that, because now we have people living between 65 and 85 years, much more so, about 20% or so, I think, in the next decade that we need to look at. And also the other part that was really critical was ethics, avoiding ethical crises, That was really, really great. There's one individual that was there was really outstanding in how to avoid conflicts and be more ethical when as a board member. And of course, one of the things that I've always loved is just interacting with other people. I sat with the mayor of Santa Barbara, and we were talking to him and sharing what was happening there and so forth. And some of the things that are not ethical that happen in those agencies. So we learned quite a bit. And again, it was really, really great to be there with Rochelle when she picked up her award. And congratulations again for an excellent, excellent presentation. And that's all I have. It was great.
Are you on commissioner comments? Or still on LAFCO?
Yes, Commissioner.
Okay, so I would like to thank Chair Freeman for being here today on her birthday.
Oh.
So
Whoa.
happy birthday. Just wanted
Oh.
to acknowledge that today.
Happy birthday.
I do have a question, more than it is a comment. I know we moved or continued this item, earlier item 10 to January, I forget the date. When are we hearing the municipal service review? Will that be part of that same meeting, or will that be February?
We're shooting for January for the city municipal service
Oh, so it's going to be a full
reviews.
meeting then?
Yeah.
Okay.
The
I just
17th.
wanted to...
17th.
The 17th of January. Right.
Okay, thank you.
I do think that it's highly unlikely you're going to have an approved MOA by January anyway, so most likely you'll just be continuing in January that item, the annexation item, to a future meeting. Just so you know, it won't seem as ominous of a meeting as it might otherwise seem.
Move to adjourn. Happy Thanksgiving, right?